Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another week of the ESL Premiership Apex Legends edition here, powered by Intel. Myself, John P, joined by the lovely face that you guys saw last week as well. Darren, my friend, how are you doing? I'm going to call you Killer Pigeon because it's probably the best name for a caster alias I've ever heard in my life, so I hope you're okay with that. It's goated, honestly, at this rate. I'm going to throw that out there.
I'll take the compliment, my friend. I'll tell a little story on that. One time, when I was winning one of my first big events, I sat down. I'm not going to name the host. It's Tier 1 talent, and he's like, Killer Pigeon. What kind of stupid name is that? I was like, a stupid name you're going to have to call out whenever you throw to me, buddy. I just walked away from the table. It's a clown name, you know. But
that's what us casters like to do. We make each other's lives a living hell and difficult, right? But it's all fun and games at the end of the day. But I'm excited, nevertheless. We're going to kick things off like we do every single week here, of course, with the AOC refresh and try and bring any of you new viewers up to date with what has happened here in the ESL Prem so far. Darren, yourself, you was obviously working with a good buddy of mine, Neo, last week, if I'm correct, on the show. So give us a bit of a rundown. What happened? What did we miss? Is there sort of just give us the overall gist as to what actually happened last week?
Well, we saw a team spitting pure fire. I mean, Neo, he might have that name, but I think he'd agree, after everything he watched last week, he was not the chosen one. It was UTFT. UTFT that came through and blitzed it. After day one, things actually had looked pretty even, pretty balanced across the board. Murky had the top spot. UTFT were trailing just 7 points behind in second place. After that, you have to dip down 40 to 30 points before you can find the rest, so about 20 points behind the two leaders of the pack. But the story switched entirely. Like, honestly, when we shifted into the second day, Murky were, I don't know, maybe feeling a little bit murky. They need to rub their eyes, they need to wake up. They weren't turning up in the early rounds. They were getting eliminated very early on, contested regularly on drop at Maud. That didn't work out too well for them. And in the meantime, UTFT were just chugging by. They start off in the first game with a perfect positioning on top of Trials that sets them up for God's spot in the final rings. They come top 3, I believe it was, in that one. Not too many kills, but not too bad. And then they switch it up. They say, you know what? Lobby seems kind of imbalanced on the skill level here. Let's just turn it into a blitzer. They went back to back to back, slaughtering the lobby. I believe they got 25 points, 24 points, and then 16 points, denied only in the final game. But there's no denying right now, if this trend continues, John, this is simply going to be a who gets to be the first place loser, because UTFT will be first place winner.
Yeah, well, we were speaking a little bit during rehearsals earlier on today and on the lead up to this, and we hate as members of talent and casters to probably put a winner on the lobby and on the tournament and the event prematurely and sort of bite the bullet and try and guess who's going to win to end. But when you've got someone like UTFT who are just running through teams so easily, it probably makes ourselves jobs a little bit easier to look like we at least know what we're talking about every now and then, right? Yeah. But no, I think that narrative is definitely going to be those teams that are sort of ranked from second, even probably look at the leaderboards now on my other screen, all the way down to probably around the 8th spot region. You know, we're only separated there by about 20 to 30 odd points, so that's only one good game of Apex Legends, and you can jump yourselves right up that leaderboard.
Yeah, and just to point out, like, UTFT, they did get the back-to-back-to-back. It's just in the final round, someone that was very impressive to see Chet's, for example, Chet's Esports, they really popped off there. I think they got second place, 10 kills. So they got more points than UTFT in the final round. But I agree, you know, it's that kind of feeling like you don't want to see it just turn into, well, the rest of the weeks are simply going to be us, I don't know, jerking off the first place team and then saying who gets to be the doormat, right? We want to see actually like who can actually turn things around. And I think maybe the promising element when we look back at what happened last week is day one, Murky did look incredibly threatening. Maybe we see a return to that. Franco British Union looked fantastic on the first day, and then also on the second day had some clear shines. I mean, especially the first game of the day, of day number 2, they were able to take the win, and I think they got 24 points for that, which, by the way, put them neck close to with the best performer. I think UTFT only beat them by a single point for the best performance out of any team in any single game. So this is definitely far from over, but it's just kind of setting that feeling, setting that motion. You know, something has to change here. I am glad to see some teams are finally waking up. I just hope they can find a way to kind of consolidate forces and keep those consistent results coming through.
Yeah, well, consistency is obviously key, and with consistency comes the title of Prem VP, or should I say Prem VPs, as it's probably no shock to the viewers at home who we are going to be crowning the Prem VPs from last week and going into this week. Of course, it is the team that, like you said, run through absolutely everybody. If I'm correct in saying it, is UTFT, and they were just so solid last week, Darren. They were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not sure what all the letters stand for, but I assume the T's just stand for top, like both of them, top, because right now, like they're on top in such a big dominant position. I think they have a 48-point lead over second place, which is Murky, and they have in total kills they are 16 ahead once again of Murky. And then here's an interesting part for you, John. Well, we've had 8 games so far. 50% of them have been won by UTFT in a battle royale.
Yeah. That's decent numbers, to say the least. But if any of you guys have missed the action, why don't we go ahead and throw over to a quick little some clips as to basically why this side has been named our Prem VPs for the first few weeks.
This is super aggressive. Red armor as well is going to be tough, but one will fall. Makes it all the more easy. UTFT, a side who struggled a little bit in qualifiers, looking not too shabby here by any means. And they take that position and should be able to take that red armor.
Now it's Kipper for Gang. He's got to hold on against the remaining lot. And the HP starting to burn away, and that will be an elimination. UTFT are your champions of game 1. Marshall's got to be careful, he's backing away. Where's the HP bar's gone? There's a minute left to go, and pushing in they go. There we have it, your champions. Murky, I think they've just got removed.
It is, UTFT, fantastic again from them, second time. We've seen them be the champions today. Mozambique being used in this engagement. Not exactly a gun that I prefer, but some people make it look like it's God's gift. And speaking of, that's a healthy amount of damage being dealt. Armor cracked, looking for more on the back of the Havoc. We spoke about what the Havoc can do at close range, and Tax is going to make that look oh so easy. They're looking to hunt down Mythic. I don't see Mythic surviving this. There's not a world in which they can. Great spray coming through. The beam coming in, looking to finish off his food, and he will. My goat bloodhound over towards the other side as well. Oh, a little bit of a dance. The Serpentine coming through here. Oh, he's toying with his food. Oh, no, not like this.
Has still got that Re45 to work with. Will crack him fast here. Looks like one's going to be down though. Player does get dropped by GX. Now the movement comes out from Tax. Second one's going to hit the deck, and it looks like it's going to be a clean sweep for UTFT to show dominance here in the second game. To hold in the moment, there is going to come out successfully, so now it's going to be 3-on-2. Arc Stars are going to keep them oppressed, and Dream Chasers are once again going to be eliminated. Tax has to send it before the res comes out. Nice Re45 spray on the player to finish him off, and now it's a 1-on-1. Third team rather, does get eliminated. So it is just between these two, UTFT and X-Side. Who's going to come out ahead? Spray looks good. Tax knows he can send it now. The Re45 bang, looking not long for this world. It's going to be another one. UTFT lock it in. Once again, champions.
Well then, if you managed to tune into that short little recap, you probably would have understood why UTFT were our sort of Prem VPs really of that week, because it was self-explanatory really. A one team, I can't really say one man or one woman show because it's a trio team of course, but a one team show, right? KP, it was just so dominant from the side of UTFT, and there's no surprise as to why they're currently on top spot.
Yeah, I think they carry each other evenly, right? You can definitely talk about pop-off performances coming out from Ganji or Tax, but like collectively as a team, you see even Nazidia popping off at times. And I love that. It's the fact that it means you haven't got a weak point, someone that can bring you down. It means that if someone's going to want to be able to overwhelm you, they need to do it on even fields, right? Like we usually see these teams where it's kind of the pub stomper guy, right? The star that they play behind, he leads the way, they charge behind, maybe one of them's a lifeline, one of them's a Newcastle, and all their job is simply to pick him up when he goes down. But that's not the case here. I mean, this is a well-rounded team. Also love the fact they have a great mixture of patience and kill threat. And we saw that very clearly in the clips. You know, I honestly, thinking back to the amount of times I was the one talking over the UTFT moments and the amount I've talked about now, I'm starting to sound like a fanboy. But they do have a well-rounded roster. They know when to play God Spot and play for Ring, and they also know when to aggress through teams to just try and cycle up those kill points. Because something we have to remember here, right? It's not about who necessarily wins each of these rounds. It's about who gets the most points. And if you kill a lot of these players early on, you will accrue a lot of points.
Yeah, it's okay. We know if you took your t-shirt off, there'd be like a UTFT jersey on.
Oh yeah, that's just I'm tattooed on since last
just
week.
Rip it off like Superman or Spider-Man or something like that. It's all right. Listen, when a team like UTFT are playing the way they are, it's safe to say they might rack up a few supporters every now and then as the weeks go on. But no, I'm really excited to see. It's a point that you made, and us as casters sound like broken records all the time for saying is that consistency is most definitely key. Yes, they've had a great start over the first couple weeks or so. Yeah. However, are they going to continue that consistency going into the later stages of the competition? And in particular, a week like now, where if we sort of, talk about that race for finishing second spot or first place loser, I don't think the side of UTFT could really afford to take their foot off the gas too much, because if we talk about them dropping out slightly early on in one or two games, not accumulating 0 to any points at all, and we see the likes of the teams just behind them, teams that played so well, the likes of Murky, Franco-British Union, Mythic Gang, even the likes of Chets, for example, come out with a killer week, those standings might start to shift and look a little bit different come the end of week 3, for example.
Exactly. This is the thing. When you just look at the first day and how things are looking, most people would just said Murky, UTFT is just going to come up those two. Then you looked at the end of the ranks at day 2. It's like, okay, Murky didn't even increase the points by an extra 20. Across the whole second day, right? That's not to target out Murky, right? They had a great first day, but it shows you like that consistency has to come through. I'm sure they, for example, would have made some adjustments. Something I did mention earlier is Murky specifically kept partying in Maud with another team, which meant that they often were getting dropped on landing, or they were having to run away naked and beaten through the streets with no gear to speak of. So maybe we'll see a switch up. Maybe we'll see some teams move to different drop locations. But I will warn, one thing I noticed back when I cast.com, because I wanted to create Weatherman pieces around teams changing their rotations based on results. They don't do it. Teams are almost like obnoxiously stubborn, right? If they like dropping somewhere, regardless if they get wiped 4 times in a row, they'll come up the next day and drop the same location.
Yeah, and with that though, like you said, the stubbornness can sometimes come back to bite you, right? I mean, we made a bit of a joke in the rehearsals, which we're not advertising griefing or hot dropping someone here, all right? Let's not flame the casters in the chat, but it was like, are we going to see sort of the likes of the stubbornness from the likes of UTFT try and hold their drop spot even if they do get contested? But one thing I want to talk about a little bit is the likes of legend picks, for example, coming into this. This is something that we talk a lot from the lowest level of Apex Legends right up to the highest of tier 1 pro play. How important is it that you get a really good legend comp here, KP? And is there any surprise with you that the likes of Valk, like the likes of Seer, Horizon, are sitting inside the top 3 picks on overall percentage?
I don't think there's too many surprises here. Maybe the fact that Crypto's not a little bit more popular, considering that he's coming in as the new scan type hero, and also the way you can counter people out. But I guess we'll have to see if things switch up. Just to quickly round out, like Valk's going to be at the top, especially on a map like World's Edge, because the easy rotations. Seer gives you easy scan and hunt down for any rats hiding behind. And the prime reason you go for Horizon is not just her amazing Black Hole ultimate, it's the fact that when you contest people on landing, Horizon is one of the best legends. She skips the landing animation. It means she can beat other people to the initial gun. So let's see if we get any moments like that. I'm seeing similar landings to before, maybe some switcheroos. No contest going on around Maud anymore, although you have got a team close by. Interesting part, I was wondering if teams were going to get a little bit more aggressive towards UTFT, but once again, they get Trials and Skyhook completely free.
Yeah, and that's going to play into a team like UTFT's style of play so well. One of them, of course, over towards Skyhook is going to be a bit of a high-tier loot and hot zone, so they're going to allow themselves to pick up a bit better weaponry and utility to work with early on, but overall across the map you can see that zone is going to start to go over towards that southwestern side of that map. You've got the like of Thermal in there, Lava Siphon just on the outskirts, Fragment, Shadow in the northeastern side, so overall, we've only got, what, really 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if my calculations are correct, over towards that first shift or so. But nevertheless, you kind of answered my question, the first question I was going to throw at you here. In terms of the overall drop spots and that first phase, coming off the back of the first 2 weeks, what are the habits that we've seen from some of these teams? Do they like to play fast on the rotation? Do they like to sort of hug zone a little bit and play at the edge of rings, try and opt for that god spot? Is there some sort of habits that we've seen from some of these teams? And I don't want you to just focus on UTFT. I want us to focus on some of the other teams around that second, third, and fourth spot region as well.
I think the best way to kind of define last week's games is like the RPG Battle Royale experience, right? You have to go through the first monster to level up, because what was frequently happening is we were seeing rotations in an L shape. So essentially teams were folding and eliminating or getting eliminated on the way. There wasn't as much kind of cross spread that you'd usually get out of a 20-team game. That's something we do have to kind of lean into here. We can't really deny it. Anyone who looked at the map there would have went, that didn't quite look like as many teams as I remember. We haven't got a full lobby here, which means, you know, in terms of spawns, things are going to be a little bit looser and less like the teams are going to get contested on landing.
Yeah, and I'm a very seasoned Battle Royale player, and one of the worst things I have happened to me on a regular basis when it seems like I play ranked is someone always wants to contest me off the drop spot, and there's a reason why I'm the pretty face behind the camera and the microphone and not on the stage shining here at the ESL Premiership. But speaking of contention, a little bit of early contention here for the side of Murky. It's going to be Mars Cage who finds the first knock and the confirmation on the kill as well onto Alex. So it's going to be the first point on the board this time around. And one thing to note, we are starting with 11 squads, 31 players in total. How different is this going to force the style of play to change here, with the fact that we're not running with, you know, a big lobby like some of these players might be used to playing in?
Move fast, kill fast. Like, you should be able to get good loot and then flip for kills as quickly as possible. You know, placement, you can try to gamble on that, but especially if you're a team like Murky, even if you're UTFT, you don't want to wait around for that situation. UTFT experienced the hard way that things can go wrong if you just sit back, chill, and settle for maybe 5 kills max. Even they switched things up from game 2, 3, and 4, where they started rotating regularly, consistently looking for kills. And, well, you see on your screen, one of the first eliminated players, I think, in fact, the first, is we have got a 2-man squad in here. So there was 32 players total. Murky have made this rotation before. There was one game where it completely backfired, and that was part of the reason they performed so badly. But this is looking brilliant to open up with. They're going to find the follow-up kills, and it looks like handmade burgers might be a munchable little treat for Murky here to open up.
Yeah, well, you fried them, you slapped a dollop of cheese on and stuck them in a bun, because they're going back to the loading screen to get ready for that second lobby as already. They're going to drop out relatively early doors here. Our first squad eliminated. Blinking, you miss it for them, and that's not the start that you want going into sort of, you know, game week 3, right? If you've maybe had a bad start in weeks 1 and week 2 going into play day 3, you want to start well. You want to have a good point game, right? Going, oh my god, Rousey, that Sentinel doing so much work. Kieran, see you later, mate. Don't stand still while Rousey's about, as he's going to find the drop. But just going back to that point I was making, if you've had a bad start to week 1 and 2, you've got to come into week 3, for example, and play day 3 and not have a similar affair. You've got to start off good. So for those burgers, unfortunately, that's not the start that they want.
No, and it's not looking good for Joe Bear and Co. 2 members already down, third to full. Catjam looking to clean house here. And with the scan they have, the information, it should be easy to finish one off. And by the way, this is the contest I was talking about. Like, this is the type of thing that's been happening. Catjam frequently have been messing around Mod. This time, I believe they didn't go for the drop initially there. They went for Lava City instead. And then when the team rotated in from Mod, they were waiting. And this time, come out ahead.
Yeah, and it's just smart positioning, right? It's studying probably from the past few weeks where some of these teams might have dropped and where they can contest and rotate their way to find a few kills, and they've done exactly that. But the Valkyrie deploy does come through, and that's probably one of the main reasons why, right, we've seen Valk since really been released into the game. She's become so meta and so important to have teams, especially at the highest level of Apex Legends. It's such a useful bit of kit. You can use it to rotate and drop onto a team. You can use it to rotate away from yourself and get yourself out of danger. For a team like UTFT, they're going to do nothing but run away. Sorry, they're definitely not going to run away from a fight. They can do nothing but fight the fight, to say the least. They've used that redeploy to jump on a team. They do find a few shots to tag things up early doors, but with Yanji's Purple Evo going to be cracked down to just under 1 of the 3 bars, is going to elect to pop that shield battery or shield cell and get that back up and running. But already here, you can see for the side of UTFC, they're scouting out the lobby. They're also, though, doing something that I really like from a team who's sitting in top spot. They're respecting the fact that there are still some very good teams in this lobby, because a team that's, what, like 40, 50 odd points up going into this week could quite easily have re-engaged and try to be a little bit overzealous and bite off more than he can chew and go down early there. So I like the fact that they just elect to back up, relocate, reposition, and live to see at least another fight or two.
A team that you should be worried about is Mythic, right? Mythic are in 4th place overall, 75 points. Of course, pretty far behind UTFT, but one of the typical ones that could maybe upset you. Mythic, in fact, done a phenomenal job in the opening game of day number 2 last week, where they did take the first game series, and they were able to eliminate UTFT, one of the final teams. So there is respect being given. Also, UTFT, they were forced to plant the low ground, and the reason they held initially was simply because Vash had popped the totem. So what happens there is you have to push them back to the totem to reset them. Otherwise, they keep chasing, chase. Once that totem times out, they might have position on you. So I love the fact that they're very kind of calculated in their approach here. It's not just a full retreat, but it's also not a full engage.
Yeah, calm, cool, calculated, right? That's the most successful thing, or successful playstyle you can try and have as an Apex Legends team. But I've just realised here, right? Sometimes we talk about Battle Royales being a bit of a slow burner and a slow start, right? In particular, Apex, for example, where we can have a little bit of a chaotic start if a few hot drops are contested. But we only had 11 squad starters with 32 players, but we've already lost, if my calculations and my private education proves dividend, we've already lost 4 of those squads in total already, and 13 players. So we're down to just 7 remaining teams. This has been a lightning quick start here in round number 1 for Playday 3 so far.
It's the style of play that's required, right? We're not talking about match point system like LGS uses. There's such an amazing system that can slow down these things. You have to become more calculated. Think about the fact you need to even unlock the win condition. We're talking about was, in kind of a way, a kill race. You know that the skill level is a little bit imbalanced in these lobbies. You want to try to fry those easier teams and get those easy points on the board, because as we've noticed, if you kill enough players, doesn't matter if you come 2nd or 3rd in the end, you might easily end up with more points than the team that finishes first.
Yeah, it's one of the rule sets that I really like in most Battle Royale games, or out of all the Battle Royale games, should I say, this the win condition system that we have in the ALGS. But it's nice to see the likes of the ESL Prem though forcing that faster engagement, because it puts on a bit of a viewer spectacle, right, and a spectator spectacle to say the least. But either way though, we are going to see, like I mentioned, 19 players left. That circle, of course, going to start to close on in, and I think we've got 3 teams within a pretty decently close vicinity of each other. You've got JC in the squad, you've got Demus, Combo, this
Cal?
is a Cal.
What? Is he a witch? Must he burn? Heretic? I don't know what the hell's happening.
I love how we had exactly the same reaction there, as I was like, Cal, you okay, buddy? You see that health bar? You don't want it to hit 0, my friend. But
yeah, but they I think they're in trouble. Like, yeah, there's a Seer team coming towards them. They saw the heartbeats. They know they can't even get the lift off. Demos gets hit in the back, so Valk gets interrupted, and Augulus are going to probably remain killless. They won't even achieve their 1 kill per game, like they at least done on day number 1 and 2.
Yeah, looks like it's Augulus, killless, and potentially lifeless at some point as well. At least Demos is. It's going to be Cal trying to duck and dive his way away. The shield is going to try and keep him alive for a little bit longer, but not before Breaker can break the hearts of Augulus. And that's going to be our 7th squad eliminated here, down to just 17 players. So that was the duo that kicked things off here in round number 1 for Playday 3. Unfortunately, bowing out probably a little bit sooner than they would have liked to. But Franco Brits, one of the squads currently sitting inside the top 3. Noxer and the crew really shined well so far throughout the first 2 play days, and you could say they probably are one of the teams, you know, along the likes of Mythic and the other teams that are just sitting close behind the likes of UTFT, that if they can put on a big stomper of a performance here in the likes of round number 1 for Playday 3, they could get the likes of UTFT really thinking and taking this a lot more seriously than the likes of that high aggressive puggy style of play that we saw them do towards the end of last week.
Yeah, and Franco Brits is definitely one of those teams that can deliver. There was a big expectation coming this event that they would be one of the top 2 teams, top 3 teams. And although when you looked at the end of the scores after the last week's games rather, they were top 3. They weren't really popping off in that second day like people come to expect. So maybe we see a switch around this time, but definitely no pushover ahead of them here. Cat Jam, of course, did have some decent performances on day number 2. They started to score some points and run deep. Could prove to be an upset here. Don't want to overextend in this area as well. There should be a team rotating around Harvester at this rate that could turn this into a 3rd party.
Yeah, it looks like, though, lots of damage has been done from the side of Cat Jam, but like you mentioned, you don't want to be around here for too long, because the 3rd party is definitely something that can come into place, though. Lots of damage once again coming through. That player, luckily for him, has got the purple Evo to work with, so it will take a little bit longer than some others to crack the shield off and die down. But, well, speaking of being down, it's going to be Rousey who falls. There goes one of the other players from Catjam as well, and unfortunately, these kiddies are stuck up a tree that they can't get out of, as it is going to be the side of Franco Brits who come through. Don't lose a single player in the process. JC does get tagged up heavily, but should make it out of that one alive with 3 kills, and that is a great spot that team found himself in. But for Catjam, you mentioned that third party could come through. It didn't even need to come through, because the side of Franco Brits, they cleaned up shop almost instantaneously.
UTFT in the meantime gonna have a party, wiping out Mythic and finish them off after they've been contesting this area. Looking great for UTFT. They were the team around Harvester. And just quickly back to that previous point, I don't think that cat was stuck up in a tree as much as forced into a bag and thrown into a river. Franco Brits used the high ground phenomenally well. And the decent difference that came out there, although there was a clear damage exchange, Franco Brits finished what they started. They make sure the team on the low ground can never get a drop, which means they can never push. It's always going to be a heal reset. And as soon as you get cracked and dropped on one member, Franco Brits go full ham, and that's why they take the win in that fight.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a Who Dat the Cat out of the bag reference in there somewhere, or at least we'll see that at some point throughout the broadcast. But down to our top 4 then. 12 players do remain. Trios across the board for everyone else. Franco Brits, one of the sides inside that top 4 in the overall standings, and top 4 in this lobby so far. We've got UTFT alive and kicking as well. Just a few pop shots come through from Noxa. And one thing I like about Noxa, JC, and Clone is they back themselves in 9 out of 10 engagements that they get in, if not 10 out of 10. They're a team that play with a lot of confidence, and there's nothing more scary for a team on Apex Legends or just Battle Royale in esports in general, for them to fight a team or be a team fighting them, whilst this squad have got so much confidence, because they are a scary customer. Breaker, though, is going to have the shield broken straight off. Going to be forced to use that shield battery to get things back up and running. Kiefer, though, is going to find that first Nox. That's going to be Noxa who's dropped.
Yeah, and they know where the rest of the members are. JC is going to have to move to the roof here. Second member down. It's going to be all in him to try and redeem this, but not much opportunity too. Clone gets firsted out. JC now at shields. Franco Brits will be eliminated. The static comp holds strong in the God spot as we move down to our final 3.
Yeah, and that's don't want to say we gave him the cursor, or I gave him the cursor to commentate this, and I love how aggressive they're playing. They played probably a little bit too aggressive there, and went a little bit too gung-ho, and it cost them their life. Listen, there's a reason why I just say I'm a caster and not an analyst, right? I've not got that much of a bigger brain.
John, I think what you're saying is maybe Gang Gang owes you like 5% of their earnings if they win this. You know?
I think so. I do. I think there's a percentage and commission cut in there for me somewhere. All right. But
just
anyway,
don't say anything good about them, right? Like Gang Gang are definitely going to lose this now. You know, Chets and UTFT, they're clearly going to stomp them.
It's not like UTFT. I've got like a 50-point lead on everyone in the lobby, but yeah, it's quite clear that Gang Gang are never going to win a game of Apex Legends for the ESL Prem, at least anyway. But anyway, like you mentioned, top 3, 9 in total, so all players available for the sides that are left alive in this lobby, up, running, lock and loaded, ready to go across the board. Look at this, look at the loot loadout in terms of the Evo and the shield that we've got for the side of UTFT. It's looking fantastic. Only Ganji that's going to have to try and upgrade that purple Evo eventually, but for the side of Chets, they were a team that really impressed you, right, towards the later stages of Playday 2, and coming into Playday 3 now, they want to try and carry on that motivation and that momentum. Yeah, they popped off in the final game, in day number 2, rather. They managed to get 10 kills, second place, just behind UTFT, who of course got the back-to-back-to-back. So they woke up, right? And I'm glad to see some consistency coming out. I think this team can deliver. They have good positions, good rotations, and good coordination. And I'm glad to see it's now netting them already a top 3 finish. Yeah, and I'm excited to see, though, if the side of Chets Esports can continue this. And again, we sound like broken records. It's almost like as a caster, when you start casting, you give a handbook of all the top phrases to say, right? But we do sound like broken records all the time when we say consistency very much is key. And if Chets can find this level of consistency, they've got the firepower to cause a little bit of trouble here. But UTFT, they have found themselves... they got God spot. Very, very... I think, could you get more of a God spot than this for this zone and the rotation? I mean, maybe if you could like erect a statue of Zeus somewhere, then it would look more godly. But other than that, this is about as godly as it gets. They're going to have to rotate into them. And the brilliant thing is they rotated here intentionally to try and force a sandwich situation that they weren't going to be the meat. They weren't going to be involved in that. They knew that Chets had locked that building in. They knew that Gang Gang has a static comp with their Watson, so they're going to lock in easy peasy. So instead, they just move ahead of the issue and they say, we can play this patient. We murdered enough people in the first half of the game. We're getting good kill score.
Now we want a
see.
placement.
Chet's Esports though, still continuing well.
Oof, Kraber shots coming through. Things getting feisty. I mean, this position, despite everything that I've just said, like, honestly, Gang with the Kraber, it could still be the X factor, but they need to not waste all of these shots. They've only got 3 left.
I have nightmares about the Kraber and what it's done to me in many games of, Apex Legends. All right, it's a nasty weaponry to have, but Kiefer is gonna find one. It's gonna be Nick who falls. So for Chets, we bigged them up a little bit and said that they're a team that we want to see continuously play well, but they're gonna have to do it, or at least momentarily, without one of their key pieces of firepower. That's gonna be Nick. The revive does come through though from J-Lo, relatively easy. Oh my god, so much damage. Nick though almost instantly dropped as soon as he comes back up. J-Lo gonna attack heavily and
Genji just griefed them right there. They're stunned on the spot. The rotation's coming in. I do believe Chets are about to be in quite the bind.
Yeah, it's Chets are what we call in the firing line at the moment and being put in the firing ranges. Both Gang and the side of UTFT have got them in their line of sights. A couple of players do drop. Coach is going to fall. That's going to be Nick who follows as well. And Genji, like you mentioned, playing the griefer at the moment. He's going to confirm one of the kills. And well, for the side of Gang, they want to try and clean up the side of Chets as quickly as possible. That is going to have happened. But now they turn their attentions to the side of UTFT. I think I did see a shield crack on one of the players. However, there is a big old distance and a lot of lava that separates these two sides.
Oh, and this is the Greek getting to him. They wanted to subtly third party with just one member. It looks like the Horizon might be in a bit of a pickle here. So Tax does in the end go down to a combo of the damage from Gang and of course the lava below. So that means there's now a 2-on-3. No easy way to recover Tax either. And I did say they have God Spot, but you know, I'm not going to still call it God Spot when you have to defend it with just 2.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a tough task here for the side of UTFT. That Molten Lava is going to do a little bit of damage, but not too much for the side of Gang to worry about. But here comes the engage. Like you mentioned, the duo on the side of UTFT. We've seen them pull off stops before, and we know how much firepower they've got to work with. Can they continue to do it? It's going to be up to Genji's ready to find the first. He doesn't. He does get a lot of damage dealt to the player, but he receives a lot of damage at the same time. Kiefer's going to find one. It's all up to Genji. This should be GG here for round number 1 on play day 3. As although
it's just 1 versus 3.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough spot for Genji to try and find himself to clutch in. He's not going to do it. Game 1, round 1 goes to the side of Gang.
Gang living up to their name. They take it down as a crew in the end, having that numerical advantage going into the final circle and final assault, all off the back of UTFT feeling the situation a little bit too wrongly. You know, they get the initial aggression, looks great, but then they don't respect the fact that pushing with 1 member is not going to be enough to clean up a team that have at least purples on board and plenty to reboot themselves with when they eliminate the other team. But great play by Gang. They take the first map. We're going to head to a short break. When we return, we're going to break down that first sit.
Well then, what a game number one we saw, to say the least. It was fast-paced, it was aggressive, it had a little bit of everything, right? KP, talk to me. What was it about that game number one and round number one that was so entertaining?
It's the bleed out, right? So often we're just seeing enemies eliminated 24/7. This is the thrill of the kill. Remember, we mentioned in the mid game that this is all about kills. Kills matter just as much as placement in this format. So teams don't want to wait around. They don't want to wait on the logs. And you can see this in the way they gear. When we looked at that late game, there was a lot of gold shields. And the reason is you don't really have enough time to sit around and fabricate any shield batteries, right? You want to have shield cells. You want to have low downtime. You want to be able to rotate regularly. In fact, when we got to this final ring, Gang, which were playing a static comp and mostly didn't move in this area, were the only team running multiple reds. When you looked across at UTFT, by example, who I think had rotated the entire map at that point, right? They came all the way up from Trials, made their way to center, and then back across. They had 2 golds and a purple. And the reason is that they're finding teams before they fully equip, which means they're burning them out fast and not farming damage for their own shields. And then they're not hanging around to use the fabricators to create more shield batteries, because that means you're idling when you could be killing.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you look at the likes of UTFT, for example, I think that style of play probably suits them down to a T. Right? Look, let's not focus too much on UTFT, because it wasn't them who picked up the game number one win, of course. It was the side of Gang. And speaking of that game number one, round number one, let's take a look at the standings from game number one as to where people did place. Gang, 9 kills as well, by the way. That's a 21-point game for them. Only the 12 points for the side of UTFT, and that's not a bad start here for the side of Gang.
No, and that's the crazy part here, right? Like, I wouldn't say, you know, it seems like I'm focusing a lot on UTFT, but you kind of have to highlight the team that were hunter-killers. They didn't look like hunter-killers this game. Despite the fact that they rotated most of the map, they were just too late to find the people. And this is something I mentioned about the rotations and how they made change up today. Gang had kind of been going under the radar, but seems like when they're playing around thermals, really benefits them. They became somewhat static. They locked in very early on. They were the team running this Watson comp. Usually the issue of running a Watson-type comp is it's a very high-level type composition. Unless you want to use it for full-off static defenses like it was originally created for, you're not going to get a lot of value out of it. But what people learn is when you looked at the way that APAC especially was performing with this particular legend in the Pro Series, it was a great unit of recon. Because if you place down these fences, they show up on your map, and it allows you to know when people break them so they're rotating through. And that gives you prior info to flip and make rotations, which is like what I think Gang was doing in the early game, and I think that's where they netted a few of their early kills.
So if you're Gang, then I think you made some great points there about the way they played in it and how it plays into their legend comp as well. If you're Gang, do you stick with more of the same here? Like, are you taking the approach of like if it's not broke, don't fix it, or do you take the approach that's to say, okay, well, teams now might have figured out this is why we were so successful in round number one. Are the likes of UTFT going to go back to playing that more aggro, fast-paced style of play, opposed to trying to set up for a god spot and play ring, for example? Like, what is in the mentality now of the side of Gang after quite a successful round number one?
I think after having a round like that, they're just going to reinvest. It's kind of weird for them because after day one, they had decent pointage and 17 kills. But then by the end of day number 2, they'd only added 3 kills and a handful of points to their score. This is going to be a huge booster. In fact, this probably makes up like an extra 30 to 50% of their total score. So they're definitely going to be feeling confident about this type of composition. But I would love to see them finding ways of rotating early to get in the rings, because whenever you go for this type of composition, you are meant to lock yourself in, which means you need to already be in position. Teams that go for the Valkyrie, by comparison, have the option to laser around in the wrong place, because when things start to look bad and they need to rotate, they have that free reset with the Skyward Dive that gets them out of a bad spot and into a good one.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and see how the side of Gang, UTFT, Chet's Game, and etc. all elect to play game number 2. Game number 2 is going to be with you in just a few moments' time, but before that, we're going to throw ourselves to a quick break, so go and grab those snacks, grab those refreshments, because when we come back, round number 2, for Playday number 3, we'll be up and running. Hello, welcome back here to week number 3 of the ESL Premiership, powered by Intel, of course. Myself, John Pete, joined by Mr. Killer Pigeon, the killer of pigeons, pigeon killer, whatever you want to call yourself. I'm sorry, I butchered your name like 8 times already in this broadcast, alright? So now I'm just doing it for the memes.
That kills. All right, I've had this so many times. Feel like, why do you kill pigeons? Like, no, I'm the defender of the pigeons. Okay, right, I'm the guy. I'm going to be the old man in the park spreading bird feed. Yeah, looking after them.
Okay. I see. Changing the world one day at a time, right? But either way, enough about the memes. Let's talk a little bit more about Apex Legends. We are through our first game in lightning quick fashion. It was like a 20-odd minute game where we saw the lobby drop from like 11 squads to about 5 within the space of 10 minutes. But we are now heading into game 2 in just a few short seconds time. I asked you the question before the break, but I kind of want to kind of reiterate and ask you pretty much the same question. I've had a bit longer to think about it. Obviously, Gang coming off the back of a very, very convincing round number 1 performance. What is it now from the other squad's point of view? What have they got to do now that they've seen the way that Gang have wanted to sort of attack and play this play day number 3?
So there's very limited downtime game to game, but this is the type of situation where if I'm UTFT as a prime example, I want to be quickly opening up the VOD, checking what the initial drops were, and understanding where things went wrong. The fact that they rotated more than half the map and only found 1 squad to kill doesn't bode well for their plans to be hunter-killers. That, of course, can change depending on the ring spawn, though. Maybe we play away from Thermal Station, maybe Gang don't get set up ahead of time, and maybe UTFT or Murky are better postured to go deep in this. We'll have to find out, though. It looks like it is time to drop on into World's Edge the second time today.
Yeah, of course, all 4 games today are going to be on World's Edge. We are going to be seeing that zone slightly further over towards the eastern side. Game number 1 obviously was over towards the southwestern, and again, UTFT look pretty uncontested over towards Skyhook and that top northwestern side of the map. I'm just trying to scan around and see where everyone else has been dropping in. Looks like you've got Rousey and Co heading over towards Lava City. You've got Joe Bear from Blade, for example, just slightly to their east. Other than that, it looks like a pretty uncontested drop spot. Not too many people on top of each other. I think the closest teams have you got are like the ones that I mentioned over towards Lava City and probably over towards Landslide and Countdown, where you've got Teddy and Miloshki's squads. But other than that, it should be a pretty nice smooth sailing start here to this round number 2.
Yeah, I think we've more or less just got a complete copy and paste of the last game. Like, you could just essentially open up map number 1, and if it wasn't for the way ring spawn is going to be different, everything would look same old, same old. This time around, it does mean that Maud and Lava City teams are going to be able to park themselves a little bit more easy peasy, maybe not need to rotate as hard. That could play into them. And actually, if you just look at where teams are going to have to rotate, well, Hamburger, last time they had the benefit of teams having to come to them, and it didn't work out for them. This time, they're going to have to rotate into opponents. Curious to see how they're going to do moving out of Thermal Station.
Yes, of course, rotation and especially after that first shift as well, it's always something we talk about a lot in Battle Royals, but in particular Apex Legends, how teams handle that rotation phase. We spoke a little bit about UTFT's rotation in round number 1, and it just wasn't the rotation that they had hoped to find in terms of the kill department, because they only picked up 3. It was great in terms of where they ended up inside the zone, but they didn't make it work to their avail. What was it about that UTFT final positioning in that final zone that just didn't seem to work for them? Was it the fact that they sent that one player to try and go over and play the third party to lose the numbers advantage, or did the side of Gang just approach that final fight just very, very well?
I think it is the overconfidence as an insidious and slow killer. It definitely felt like it was that one member heading across. I believe it was Tax on the horizon. They smelt blood in the water. UTFT are used to being sharks, but what they didn't know is that Gang were wielding a harpoon when they came across. And one of the issues with trying to make that aggressive rotation, sometimes on flat open ground, you can make that attempt at horizon and retreat away. You're running across lava. You know, we saw how it hurt August earlier on in that same area. It's going to hurt you a lot. Tax, when they get their shield cracked, they can't run across the open, and that makes them predictable. And one thing you have to always consider, you know, that fight was being taken by 2 teams that clearly both had seers. There was always a risk that if you got stuck on that side, doesn't matter what rat spot you find, you will get found. And that's exactly what happened. Turned it into 2v3 and led to a dominant display from Gang to close that one out. Gang this time, I believe they were the ones starting over at Harvester, right? So they actually have a decent position to lock out some teams on the rotation. I want to see if they try to actively rotate ahead of time, or if they're going to try to park and see who arrives on their doormat.
I think for Mythic, though, they were one side that I think, finished inside the top 6, top 7, if I'm correct, from round number one, want to be looking to go one or two better. There was a few times where we saw them engage and it looked like they were on the front foot, but they just couldn't get over the stumbling blocks. And
if I remember correctly, they might have been the one team that UTFT killed, which is kind of crazy.
I think you're correct. Yeah, I think you're correct. I think you're correct.
Because I remember seeing Vash go down. The wacky part is, if you remember, it started off with Mythic and UTFT clashing around Mudslide, and then the finale happened all the way over at Harvester. So kind of unfortunate for both teams to get bogged down in that fight so long, considering that these are two of the top 4 performing teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's always nice, though, to see two of the top 4 performing teams go head-to-head, but it's always not nice to see one of them come out on the worst side. But in Apex Legends, there's only one lobby winner every time we jump on into World's Edge, and unfortunately for Mythic, it's not been their case this week. But Miloshki and Creep still hanging out, still in the looting phase, nice and chill for them. They ain't got too much to worry about. They have got Teddy in their squad, just slightly. They're quite close to each other. That's Mythic, right? That's who we just on board with.
They're rotating in towards Geyser by the looks of it, so you might get spotted on this roof. Dream Chasers, kind of a rough one, weren't able to get too deep in the last round. Maybe they can do better this time. I mean, they have a decent position. They know where the rings are going to come in. They just need a direction to point their aggression. Not the best equipped, though, right? Purple, blue, and yellow. I believe it was 2 golds and maybe a blue on Mythic. So on raw HP numbers, definitely an edge for one of the top performing teams.
Yeah, it's not bad to have a purple or a gold shield while rocking against someone with just the standard greys. But one or two better. They've actually got 2 golds to work with already here early doors, but they haven't got a lot of HP to work with. Because I think it's just decided gang that's going to be engaging.
Yeah, this is the team that, of course, took the first map. They're going to take some heads early on here. They even yoinked the gold away from this team. First drop already. Vash is going to hit the deck. Watson in a bad position to last long, so they won't have the pylon to protect them. Perimeter security is down, and now the flood through will come from Gang Gang.
Yeah, I like this from Gang Gang. Their confidence is high, their tails are up to say the least, and they want to start game number 1 or 2 here. How they finish game number 1, but Breaker has he bit off a little bit more than he can chew. He is going to fall. Kiefer will probably confirm that kill with the help of Widge. However, it is going to be on the other side of things. A combo in the kill column, finding a few, but Widge is going to finally take out Breaker.
Gives them both. There's another team coming in. This is about to turn to a third-party situation. Dream Chasers that was waiting on the high ground over towards Siphon. They finally make a move. And the move is prime-timed here. Combo already taken out of the picture, and they will hunt and kill. Top-performing teams looking like they're going to be eliminated at the very beginning. And elsewhere on the map, UTFT also experiencing pain.
Yeah, this is a great, fantastic, ideal situation for the likes of Mythic and Co, though, right? Who's around the top of that leaderboard, hoping UTFT are going to fall out early. They're going to lose one player very, very early on. I think the revive does come through, but that's going to be Genji, who's a sliver of HP. You sneeze on him and he's going to be falling. Same applies for Tax as well. Has Tax just dropped? I think he has. That's going to be one of the key players for UTFT. Unfortunately, not going to be able to be working with his squad for the rest of this game. Genji, they're low as well. The final player for UTFT, who's way, way back. The squad of UTFT, they are so split apart right now, whilst inside that moving zone. This is going to be a tough spot for them to navigate. And guess what? It's going to be the side of Chets who are going to be the thorn in the back of the side of UTFT. They spotted one player. Arkstar does come through, is going to go ahead and remove that door and any potential cover for that player to work with. A little bit of splash damage dealt as well. But here, Nick and his squad from the side of Chets, they're trying to be a real nuisance for the side of UTFT.
They are. They're keeping Genji out of the equation as well. Genji needs to back his teammate up. Unable to do so. Nez is going to fall down. So it is all on the remaining member of UTFT. And that all comes down to the Horizon play there. What Chet's done so brilliantly, they panicked in the moment, but then quickly recover. They drop the Horizon gravity lift and they push forward ahead of the zone. They get great spot. They catch up to the remaining members of UTFT, get that drop, and then ensure that Nez is in no man's land when his team needs his help. Just great split up the fight that gives them the lead and gives them the 1-up.
Yeah, it's great stuff, though, from the side of Franco Brits here. They do find a few knocks, a few kills as well. However, 2 players are going to be tagged down to low. JC is going to fall. There goes Clone as well. It's all up to Noxa. 1v1 left, and I think he comes out on top. However, the third party is going to come straight through. And, well, for Noxa, he's probably just got hyped for making the play. But one team you don't want to run into is the team that was sitting at second going into the start of today. That's going to be Murky, Kinda J, and Marsh. Do find the kill. That's their second of the game. We're down to 8 squads.
Franco Brit Union going out so early. Cat Jam always getting caught in cat fights like this so early on, and it usually proves to be their downfall, and once again means that they give over a damn good spot to a competing team towards the top of that leaderboard, and once again are denied themselves. Dream Chasers are the ones to watch this time around, though. What an opening for them to actually look pretty hot at the beginning of this round. Handmade Burgers, though, looking to contest. Nice hit with the Missile Swarm, stunning onto 2. They pinned him against the truck. They need to get good position here. A lot of damage coming on Atenum as he continues to push forward. Volt gets decent damage done, but it's returned to him. Miloshki does get the drop. Jord is brought low as well. Slow Hill's coming out from the pylon, but he needs to get the shield battle off. Unable to do so, and it looks like Dream Chasers should have an easy clean after a heal, as only one member remains of the other team.
That's just going to be shooting practice for the rest of this Dream Chasers lineup. They're going to find a third as well. That's going to be the next team eliminated, down to just 7 players now. And I'm just trying to think here. UTFT, well, speaking of Devils, we're going to be close to him anyway. It's up to Tax left alive. This is not looking good for UTFT. This is not looking good at all, because if Tax falls out early here, yes, okay, he's finished inside, what, the top 6, top 7. The kills aren't going to be that great either. But when you've got the likes of Dream Chasers, when you've got Murky, even Chet still alive with a decent number of kills already, this could really start to see that standings shape up a little bit more nicely. And that 40 points, 50 point lead at the start of the day is slowly but surely going to start to reduce.
And I think what happened there is Tax went in to try and recover his teammates' banners. We can check on board and see if he actually picked them up in the end. But it was incredibly dicey to even try it. Some teams in that position would play for just positioning, right? Get top 3 finish and be happy with that. Things got messy. But UTFT, they're not feeling comfortable. As you mentioned, that last game, not net as many points, anywhere near as many as they would have hoped for with a second place finish. They only eliminate 1 squad. They're feeling a need to get aggressive despite the fact they have the #1 spot, but it's going to fail for them. UTFT will be eliminated in 7th, dying to the zone.
Oh, that's not great for UTFT, but one squad that is going to absolutely love that news is the squad on your screens right now. Murky, they've already found themselves a few kills here in this lobby, and they want to find some more, and Marsh Cage is going to lead the way. Blade Mind Sharper, my friend, as you're going to full confirmation on the elimination as well, does come through, so this is great stuff so far from the side of Murky. And one thing I've liked about Murky at the moment, they've balanced it really well about knowing when to aggress and play the aggressive style of play when a team has been tagged up, or they isolate a solo player to find an easy elimination point and find that KP. And they've also done a great job of backing out and fighting as a team and re-engaging when necessary. So with 5 squads left, this has really blown these lobbies and Playday 3 wide open here in terms of where the standings could look at the end of this week.
And they've redistributed the pop-off energy that they kind of had from the previous week. Because last week, it was all about Kinder. People always looking at Kinder. Kinder's making the big plays. This time around, we can see Kaji's adding in, Jay's contributing as well. It's not just a one-man show. And it's someone I did mention in the pregame, right? The teams that are performing best are the ones that don't just have this X factor of one player. And if he's ever eliminated, everything falls apart. And that is why they're looking so much better today.
Well, Gang still standing strong. Is this a lagger?
Would you call it strong? Like, you know.
Well, his connection might not be the strongest, but I mean, at the moment they're still in the lobby, just about. But
like, don't get me wrong, John. I know like the Intel logo hid the fact that he had 2 teammates missing, but like he doesn't have that benefit. Like he can't delude himself like we could. Remember, Gang have been reduced to 1 member, and those respawn opportunities, they timed out. He didn't pick up the banners in time, so it's just him versus the world. He can only play for placement.
I was trying to be optimistic, all right? Never say never.
I said he can play for placement. That's your optimism in this situation, you know? There's Seas all around you, and you think you can still get top 3? That's optimistic.
Top 5's good enough in my eyes, all right? But for Dream Chasers, they want to be striving high and then a top 5 finish. They've looked great so far in this round number 2. Pop shots off the Evo Shield, 2 golds and a purple to work with. Loot not too bad either, and with only 12 players left, they would back themselves here to at least climb up a few more placement points, and with just 15 seconds left until that 3rd ring starts to close itself on these players.
Okay, now this might be where Augulus get the 1 kill average per game, as there is a member of Gang here still. So there's your positives. Oh no, the member of Gang wants blood.
In Gang we trust. In Gang we trust, alright? That's all
in
we,
a 1v2.
say.
It's not even Gang, it's Chet's coming in instead. They spot the rats, they smell them out, and they say, we are the exterminators. They're going to move in. Got the high ground over them with the horizon lift. Grab position is good. Ring's pushing in. The pressure is on, and it looks like it might backfire slightly for Chet. Nick Bod barely dodging death there. Will weave away before he falls, and Auglis are going to be eliminated in 5th. Gang in the meantime. I have another member incredibly close by who is only now going to peer his head out, but as soon as he walks inside that exhibit, he's going to be known.
Tough spot, but does crack one of the shields off. That's going to be the shield broken, so Keeper is going to move in and at least find one. Can he confirm the kill? He's trying to get the point. He can't, unfortunately. J-Lo's there to help him out, and the revive should come through, but fair play. Credit where credit is due from Keeper. Nearly finds one for the extra KP on the board as well, but we're inside to our top 3. All 3 players for the remaining 3 trios. Do the maths there. Will be left alive, and Chet's Esports continuing from where they left off in game number 1, edging inside that top 3 for the 2nd time in a row. Murky, who was, like we mentioned, sitting in 2nd spot going into this playday number 3 inside that top 3 also. And I think the other squad is this team that's been occupying the same spot on the map, which feels like forever. And that's going to be the side of Murky's next targets.
Yeah, that's Dream Chasers. Dream Chasers are in a bad position here. They are the meat in the sandwich. And you know when you just make a sandwich with like one slice of ham, you can barely taste it? That's the kind of thing we're dealing with here, right? They haven't got much substance to them. It's not a good position to be in. I'm not even sure they had a rotation here, if I recall correctly. I think they're full static comp. Murky could easily clean up the rest of this lobby.
And that's exactly what they want to try and do. I think if they pick up the rest of this lobby, they'll probably sit in around the 7 or 8 kill mark, if I'm correct. I think they've already got 4 or so on at the moment, and
yeah, but they backed off. So they back off the pressure from Dream Chasers, because what happened here is we saw the rotation come in. That must have been a Sky Dive out of the Valkyrie team. Because remember, they were on the other side. They were positioned to be stuck here, fighting up against Dream Chasers. So good reset and good opportunity. And maybe someone on the side of Murky should have been keeping eyes on the skies instead of giving away the best spot on the map.
Could that
Okay, so yeah, they have got rotation. That's what I needed to check for again. So Dream Chasers, they can move. But where do you go here?
Yeah, it's a tough spot to say the least. I think 2 probably power spots inside the safe area is going to already be occupied. I think they are going to elect to try and dive one of the teams, and this is a big, bold statement mood here out of the side of Dream Chasers. They backed themselves. They've been shooting well. They've been playing well thus far, and they're not going to be bullied out of a potential round number 2 win.
No, but it's going to be hard fought for here. Best situation for them is that Chet's chooses to engage, but Chet's, they see where the next ring's going to be. They say, oh, actually, if we just play like edge of ring, you're going to be forced into each other. However, when I look at this ring generation, I still feel like Chet's has the worst position, because the 2 teams now stuck in Mord can just hang on the edge and not engage each other. They'll still be in ring.
Yeah, it's a tough spot, right? It's sort of like rolling the dice and hoping that the odds are in your favor for the style of play that we're seeing Chet select to do. I probably agree. I like what Dream Chasers and Murky are doing more. They're allowing Chets to play towards them, but
wait, what? Did they? So they abandoned ship. Like this is kind of weird the way it's playing out. Like honestly, I don't know why they forfeited that ground entirely. Like, maybe they're just, like, they're paranoid they're not getting the top 2, right? So they realize it can turn to a third party. Maybe this makes more sense now. Murky, they have the Kraber, and all of attention has been drawn towards the team of Godspot. So, essentially what happened here, Coach and Co., they forfeited the best spot to force least attention onto themselves. And it's working.
Yeah, it's patience, right? Patience and credit where credit is due. Sometimes you make a questionable play that us casters don't agree with, but you make us look a little bit silly at the end when you come out with a round number 2 win. But nevertheless, like you mentioned, Kraber in the hands off the side of Murky. They're going to grab the high ground now as well over towards ship. So they're trying to find the first knock and first engagement. It is going to be the enemy shield that's broke, though. That's going to be the Valk forced to pop the shield battery and get themselves back up and running. And with only, what, I think 9 Kraber bullets left, you can't afford to miss any more. You want to at least be doing some sort of damage and causing trouble for the opposition players that you're playing against. But I'm just trying to think here as to who would you say here, KP, that's probably looking the best in this game in terms of the way that they're set up, because these players at the moment, they're kind of keeping us guessing as to what they're going to be doing next.
Murky have the best aggressive spot, Dream Chasers the best defensive spot. This is a team playing with Crypto plus Watson. It's very hard to breach them. If you rely on any sort of ultimate, it can easily be disabled in most cases by the Crypto with the EMP, and also you have to contest with all the perimeter security. So I would expect Dream Chasers to guarantee themselves a top 2 spot here, but in terms of the most likely to take the win right now, has to be on Murky. But Chets, essentially look at them as the kingmaker here, because they can decide who comes out ahead.
It's a conclusion that we are just a few moments away from. The ring is going to slowly but surely start to shrink, and that's going to force the players out of where they're currently located, well, at least for the side of Chets Esports anyway. Murky do steer their attention towards that squad rotating their way in, finds a few tags and just cracks up a little bit of a shield every now and then, but either way though, 55 seconds and we are inside that final round and the final shift. Round number 2 just a few moments away from being concluded, and again, I can't highlight the likes of Murky. If they can take this win and find, what, maybe 3 out of the final 6 kills, this is going to do their point standings the world, the absolute world of good.
Yeah, and they have got the Kraber, they have got the high ground, they know there's a team below them because Mars Kaji already checked for that. The issue they have right now is Chet's on the other side. They've got that slope, they've got that initial cliff that they can just hang behind. So they aren't going to expose first. Instead, you're going to have to forfeit high ground before you get a prime opportunity to take them out.
Players from Chets just dancing with the devil a little bit. Don't want to over-peak when you've got the Kraber in the hands of Jay will Slay, because Slay is what he does and Slay is what he will do indeed, especially with the firepower that the Kraber holds in the chamber. Yes, like you mentioned, I think for the side of Chets, they can be a real nuisance here for the side of Murky, hugging that slope and that cliff line. They're not going to expose themselves easily. So much natural terrain and cover to work with. It's going to be a real tough spot for the likes of Murky to try and navigate around. The switch of weapons and a switcheroo comes into the hands. Jay, I think, electing to say, okay, my Kraber shot's not there today. I just want the R301 back in hand.
Yeah, Jay right now feels like mummy trying to give haircuts to the 10-year-old kids, right? Chets are just dodging around like, no, stay away from us with the Clippers. We ain't going for that. So far, the Kraber hasn't really connected on the level they've been looking for. They still have to worry about that contest right below them, and we are just seconds away from that being forced here. Xibit's going to go down. They see the team stacked. Chets, all of a sudden, with the best position out of all 3 teams here. Kinder wants to pile the pressure on, looks for the finish, but gets intercepted. Chets pressuring them too hard here. Will save the life of Dream Chasers, but not for long. Sunny Bloom is going to be brought down. Contest continues. Chets want to pile it on. Thermite is going to be a whiff. The knockdown shield is going to keep them alive. Dream Chasers need to get the 3rd member up, though.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough spot for Dream Chasers, because as soon as the revive's going to get stuck, I think fortunately for them, just out the enemy line of sight, we are going to see the rotation start to come through from the side of Murky. The Horizon, of course, going to allow them to work their way slightly further up and take the top of that cliff line. But Jay's going to fall. Jado there to find one onto Trivia as well. And Miloshki left alive, the solo man, last man standing for the side of Dream Chasers. And well, you said Chets, they're going to be the ones who decide to see who comes out on top. And guess what, KP? They're going to say, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Murky aren't going to win this, neither are Dream Chasers. We decide who wins and we want to win it.
It's the patience they show. Chets understand that as soon as that final ring starts to close in on itself, they are going to turn to Ouroboros inside of Maud. They're going to have to kill each other off. Their god spots all of a sudden become demigods at best, if not mere peons. And Chets, with patience onto that high spire, ensure that they are prime time positioned to not only block rotations, but make sure that when they choose to be Kingmaker, they crown themselves.
Yeah, well, we are going to see all the highlights from that round number 2. We're going to throw to a short break, but when we're back, myself and KP, we're giving you all the in-depth analysis that you need about that round number 2. Someone needed to grab the game by the scruff of their neck, and it was Chet's Esports who did just that. They reign victorious and take home round number 2 here for playday number 3. But KP, we were speaking a little bit in the break, and one thing I heard you say to yourself so many times was, risky business from Chet's, but somehow it worked out.
Yeah, and you know, this is the team that they just missed out on top spot in the last map, right? They took, I think, 3rd place in the end, being outdone by both UTFT and then, of course, Gang Gang took first round. But Gang Gang weren't here to rain on their parade this time around. They got eliminated early, and I've got to give a lot of credit the way that Chet's played this. It was very risky. They sent one member wide in the final ring to essentially lock all the territory up. Usually what you would have expected to see there is Dream Chasers make that rotation to try and get that spot, and then still Chets will have the best position. Instead, they force this awkward situation where the remaining 2 teams are sandwiched into less than a quarter of the final circle, and they make this rush to the high ground. A rush that backfired hard. There was that brilliant jump into their gravity lift by their opponent that allowed them to spray them down with the shotgun and knock multiple members of the side of Murky to ensure that Chet's come out ahead, and what a way to come out ahead. Look at that score. 11 kills, 23 points unlocked. No doubt this is going to bump them up the rankings, probably into the top 3.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see those final standings later on in the day, because UTFT, they're down in 10th. 0 kills. 0 kills for a team that I think has found 54 kills in total across the first 8 games of this competition. Only finding 2 placement points because they finished inside the top 7. That's going to dent their chances relatively well. But yeah, you know, Chets, for example, they're going to skydive their way up that leaderboard very, very quick. But this is today's standings so far. And at the moment, Chets, they're leading supreme. They've picked up the most points, and you know, across the board, you gotta say, I'm really impressed here with these top 4 teams from today.
Yeah, it's definitely spinning around a bit, right? It's not just the same as before. Mythic is especially surprising. They just seem to be struggling to find their stride. I mean, they were looking on fire on day number 2 of this tournament, but so far, no footing for them. Maybe we'll see things switch around. You know, some teams definitely are kind of ring location based, right? Like if you get a spawn in that top left, maybe you see UTFT and Mythic pop off and perform a lot better than other teams. But so far, I can't discount what's been coming out from multiple teams here. You know, even Gang Gang, a little bit of a slippery mid-game for them that put them down to just 1 member. Imagine what they maybe could have done these final rings if they are able to survive that weird pinch where a 3rd team comes in as they're cleaning up. But this is the beauty of Apex, right? This is the thing that we look towards. This is what we want out of Battle Royales. We don't want to just not know the outcome. We want to feel that there's several different possible teams that could take it.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out what that outcome of round number 3 is going to be in just a short few moments' times. Don't go anywhere, because we're going to throw to a short few minutes break. But when we're back, we're going to have our penultimate game of the night. Well then, with 2 down, 2 to go here at the ESL Prem, I'm really, really excited for this third game because so far, if you was to have told me off the back of last week, are we going to see 2 different winners and the side who is currently top of our standings not really get anywhere. Okay, first game they got kind of close to winning the game because they finished second, but not perform to the level that we thought they would. I would have bit your hand off and told you was crazy, you knew nothing about Apex Legends. But we've seen everything but one team dominate because we've seen 2 great performances from 2 sides, 2 different winners. Going into round number 3 now, KP, I've got no idea what to expect, to be totally honest with you.
Honestly, I'm wondering if, like, maybe some of them after last week, they kind of went out, like, maybe my equipment was the problem. Maybe they went and got themselves a high refresh monitor from Aegon by AOC. Maybe they picked themselves up a high DPI mouse from Logitech. Maybe they switched up and they contacted our sponsors and they got the good gear. And all of a sudden, they're able to play. Like, for all we know, maybe some of these teams were on, like, 30 frames last week. Something has clearly changed, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, listen, look, sometimes people just wake up and they're a different breed, right? It's, day buff, right?
They got out on the left side of the bed instead of the right. Is that what you're saying, right?
They usually they didn't get out left or right. They just jumped straight out the bottom because they were like, we're not finishing on the bottom. It's the only time I don't know where we're going with this. All right, we're heading down a funny street. But either way, we're heading into round number 3 in a few short moments time. And I mean, I say a few moments. Let's screw it. Let's get straight into the game right now. We're heading back onto World's Edge, of course. Are we going to see potentially some drop spot changes now? Because for the likes of UTFT, you said we know they like to land up towards the northwestern side of the map, up towards that top left. It's not really worked that great for them in terms of the kill department because we're a team that we know we associate them with getting that loot, and their rotation path really relies on teams landing and around them and picking up those kills. Are we going to see some of these teams start to change their drop spots, or is it going to be more of the same?
I don't think we're going to see any changes, really. No substantial changes. In fact, the one big one I'd say we are seeing, you might notice the team over at Climatize, our Nick Bod coach, they moved up there. They were at Fragment last time. Outside of that, everyone has stuck to their guns except for Hamburger by the looks of it. Tired of getting eliminated around Thermal Station, they chose to drop Lava Siphon instead. That is a ballsy maneuver. Lava Siphon is one of those third-party central areas where teams are coming at you from every angle. Maybe you don't think that's going to happen in an 11-squad lobby, but then I look where the ring's going, and I can guarantee you're going to have a party.
Well, I wonder who's going to bring the party crackers and the party rings today, or, well, I say today, at least in round number 3 anyway, but yeah. Other than that, I think apart from that one subtle change, I think it's pretty much more of a mirror matchup, right? And a copy and pasta, like you said, first and second lobby were, so yeah. Time will most definitely tell.
I think just to quickly round out to give a full answer to the UTFT point, though, I don't think the drop is their issue. I think the rotations are what's going wrong. They got caught out trying to rotate into Fragment at the wrong time. You know, game 1, they were essentially looking on all the wrong places. I can forgive game 1 because you don't have a feel for where people are going. But game 2, that's where you got to start reflecting, going, okay, we know where we should be expecting teams now. Coming into game 3-4, like, they have every piece of information they know to make correct calls when it comes to rotations now. So if UTFT are going to turn up today, this is where it will happen.
Yeah, and I think sometimes when you play with that back against the wall factor, right, and your team is sort of saying to themselves, we have to have a good game here. It can either go one or two ways, right, KP? You either perform extremely well and you put that absolute stomper of a performance on the board, or you put too much pressure on your shoulders and you play probably worse than you have been so far in that week's worth of gameplay. So I think it's gonna be a bit of a gut check, I think, is the phrase that comes to mind here for these final 2 games for the side of UTFT.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where I kind of wish maybe we had some, like, listen-ins, right? So I kind of get a feel, like, is it something to do with the IGL? Had they not got a good team motivator, right? Because that's the worrying detail is, like, when you go off such a burner like they had last week and you come in and perform like this, you need to have someone in the squad who's either hard love, like, you know, I'm not saying they're going to slap you around the face, but, like, you know, metaphorically slap you around the face and say, what the hell are we doing? We need to switch up. We are UTFT, and then go full on, you know, kind of like American college where they're making weird chanting noises like a jock squad. Yeah. Or maybe you just need them to be a little bit kinder about, guys, we got this. This is the reason. Maybe you just need to blame it on someone. That's the thing I love about Apex Legends, right? It wasn't my fault. It was the loot. It wasn't my fault. It was the third party. It wasn't my fault. Why is this map in rotation? You can always have a reason when it comes to games like this.
Well, it's World Cup season and football chants are in full swings. I'm sure there's going to be a let's go UTFT or UTFT chant going in the chat, or at least in the hearts of the UFT players somewhat around the globe. But nevertheless, though, we do need to see them step it up. But I don't really want to say so much as to the fact that it's been UTFT that have been playing bad. I think it's just more of the fact that these other teams that are in the lobby, the other 10 teams that are in the lobby, have said, you know what, this isn't as much of a one-horse race and a one-team race that the casters, the viewers, and the people organising this thing might think it is. There are some good caliber opposition and good players in this lobby that know how to play Apex Legends, and yes, it's took us a few weeks, but we're finally actually starting to see it here in the ESL Prem.
Yeah, and now what we're going to see is a different fight in an area too familiar. See, Franco Brits came here looking for the Hamburger team. But Hamburgers aren't here. It's Murky, and Murky is a lot harder to fight, as they're quickly learning here. Spray out from Kaji is a little bit off the point. Should be able to clean up, though. And it looks like Murky are going to have the edge. So Franco Brits, they came looking for this fight, but they found the wrong dance partner.
I think luckily, though, for Franco Blitz, they are a pretty decent damn squad of themselves, but unfortunately for them, they're going to have to do it without Noxa, as he's going to drop out early on. Clone already knocked as well. Oh dear, it's all up to JC. This is not what the side of Franco Brits wanted. They do find one, but unfortunately Kind is there to kind of ruin the party for Marsh Cage. JC gets picked on down. The player gets revived, and that's a great start for the side of Murky.
Yeah, Kinder always consistent on following through when his team needs him. Make sure that doesn't turn into a messy situation. Gets the call out from his team. This guy's cracked, he's low, just follow through and make sure that they get some early kills on the board. Now, as we move across to the team that should have been in Thermal Station, this is where Handmade Burgers went. They started over in Siphon, they shifted around, and it looks like they're finding the easy kills for them. Orgless, once again, Orgless, killless. Looking pretty hopeless right now. I'm starting to feel bad for these guys. A two-man squad. I respect them from consistently trying day after day, week after week, but so far it's not ending well for them.
Yeah, I think maybe that's their new catchphrase when they're pitching themselves to a team. Orgless, killless, lifeless. Not so much hopeless, but struggling at the moment here in the ESL Prem, to say the least. But let's not flame too much. They've still got one more game to play in themselves. Mythic, though, wanting to try and improve on their performances so far.
What's this hunter-killer motion going on right here? This is just sending it. Handmade Burgers, did they know what they're about to try to bite into? And they're pinging it out. They know there's enemies in the area. They scan it on the interim. But their opponents are ahead of them in positioning. Sprays are going to be fairly even, so Handmade Burgers aren't going to be able to contest this too fast. They're going to try, though. High ground achieved temporarily by Awik using that gravity lift, and they will at least force out the Watson ultimate, so no pylon to work with in the future engagements, but can't give further pursuit here. They're a little bit paranoid.
I mean,
say that.
Yeah, let's say it's like they're listening into us and what we're saying right now, right? A little bit paranoid proceeds to just walk on through the door and shoot his rifle straight into the face of another player, but
it's so hard though. Like it's a Watson team, so like entries are slow. Now the exhibit's there as well. This is where they're going to slow down. And the problem is if they wait too long, another team might third party this. Yeah, I know we haven't got a full lobby, but you know there are other teams nearby. And Vash, as the Watson sends it and almost gets the kill, but the result is now Teddy and Widge are living on the edge of the abyss.
Yeah, Widge is not looking great. Neither is Teddy. Gonna have to try and get those meds up and running as quickly as possible. Lucky for them, the Evo shield, not the worst of situation. Vash does get himself back up to max HP though. As I say that, the shield's instantly ripped off of him, so the fact that we've seen a bit of an engagement too early on here, it might cause the side of Mythic to fall early. That's going to be two players out. All of a sudden, one does remain, I think. The side of Homemade Burger, sorry. They want to try and eat this squad up and eat them alive, but for a second, I thought Teddy was going to make it a little bit harder for them than they needed to. Jord finds the kill, and the revive comes through, but the third party, this is what you spoke about, right, KP? They took far too long.
They did, and Murky have prime position here. Black Hole's going to be thrown out on the side, drag him out into the open. Sprays come in, and it looks like it's going to be in favor of Awik. Belly came out ahead of Kinder. Will get the first as well. Cleans up anything he can. Tries to go for the shield switch, but Insta gets cracked down here. Another shield switch, but one too few. He cannot stay alive. Handmade Burgers will go out. Murky are now down to 2, and another team has arrived to ruin the party. The whole while through that, John, did you notice a beam of light? It was not God's divine intervention. It was a team long-range sniper with a charge rifle ruining everyone's day.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something we speak about in Apex Legends, probably more so than other BRs, is that third party. I think what on average you've probably got about 20, 30 seconds max in a team fight and in one of those skirmishes to try and get the job done, or you're going to have teams stack up on your heads time after time again, and too slow. you know, dwelled on it a little bit too much, and it's cost them their life ultimately. But well, here comes another team going over towards them. Is that the side of UTFT, if I'm correct? This is exactly the scenario that UTFT wants to do to try and film themselves a little bit of momentum.
They found them split because Jay was on the respawn duty here. He'll get Kinder back in, but he might need Kinder to return the favor. UTFT are full on hunting. The opportunity, Black Hole's going to be a whiff, but they will get the kill. Tax does tap Jay down to the ground. The second member now falling into the mess. UTFT might get 2 easy kills on the board. They are definitely hunting for it. And man, this is the team that has been too slow, right? We're seeing it again in the rotations. They finally catch up, but by the time they do, so many kill opportunities are past them.
Yeah, I think what they've lost out on 9 kills, I think, here from this skirmish that was happening.
Yeah.
In and around this POI. So again, it's just a little bit off the mark at the moment today for UTFT. They have switched over to the Wraith, though, onto Genji as well, to try and probably up the pace of these aggressions. Obviously, we know Wraith's such a high pick most of the time. Not so much so far in ESL Prem, but it's nice to see Genji switched over to it, correct?
Yeah, that's interesting, actually, because UTFT, I mean, they were embodying the tournament meta so far, because I believe they've frequently been picking, I want to say Horizon and uses of Valkyrie in there, right?
Yeah, they have. They've been playing Horizon Valk.
And then the thing that they're making their own meta last week was this lifeline pick, which was keeping them well looted as they rotate. But I guess maybe the kind of awkward adjustment for them is they stick with the lifeline, but lifeline can still feel kind of cumbersome when you're rotating so fast. Like, you can't hang around and wait for those care packages, or you're probably missing out on more kills.
Yeah, well, Marsh, he was looking strong, but instantly gets sniped with that charge rifle once again. So I'm not too sure what team is even using this charge rifle. We've not been actually able to spot them so far.
It's the team over towards the Surveyor buildings near Geyser. I'm not quite sure which team it was, but we're going to watch this fight here. UTFT with the press in. We'll get Kaji. It's just 1 member remaining. And it looks like Genji may have found them. Needs some assistance. Nez on the quick rotation will take over. It's going to force the retreat away from the final member. And they will not get out for free. They're going to have to fight tooth and nail to retreat, but it looks like they do fight back. And will continue to push on in. Nez does get the crack in return. And all of a sudden, looking like UTFT will be able to mop up this team and get some much-needed kills on the board.
Yeah, sooner rather than later, on long overdue for the side of UTFT. They find 3 KP on the board. The 7th squad is going to fall, unfortunately, for Murky. Not murking too many people today, as unfortunately it is going to be UTFT who are the bane of their existence. But we are going to see 2 teams here. Miloshki and Breaker's squads within the close vicinity of each other. And if I remember correctly, it was Kiffer who nearly went 1v3 at one point. He was solo for a little while. But this is the side of Dream Chasers, right? One of our top 3s from game number 1.
Yeah, they done pretty damn well to get deep. It looks like playing close to Geyser again is working wonders for them. Not so much in the kill department yet, but at least ensuring they're getting deep runs here. But with limited contest, that means they maybe don't have the biggest amount of resources and they don't have those valuable kills they want. UTFT, in the meantime, is prepping for a rotation. But they have found another fight. They're going to bring down Rousey. Black Hole's going to be thrown out. Open the door and come on out to play. We'll drag one in for the Arcstar Boom 4. And Cat will be cleaned up in such a magnificent fashion.
That's what we want to see from UTFT. It looks like the chemistry and the comms are in full flow, and finally we're seeing some of that good individual play being combined together to work on something that we love to see. Some fantastic team util combination. The pull in followed by the Arcstar does so much damage. Cat Jam eliminated. They're spread all over the peanut butter jelly sandwich. That is the side of UTFT, and they're going to be the 6th squad that falls out. And immediately UTFT, they turn their ties, they turn their attention over towards this 2nd squad.
Yeah, it's what I call an adorable play, because he waits to open the doors until they trigger the black hole to make sure there's no chance of retreat unless the person was listening out for the sounds. But now UTFT are finally picking that team that's been a nuisance for everyone in Lava Siphon. Still primed on that high ground. They have got the charge rifles, so you don't really want to contest them at range. The choice for UTFT is, do we dive in deep looking for kills, or do we try to get a good position for the final rings?
It's probably one of the toughest decisions you probably make, right? And it's probably the IGL. I'm not too sure who the IGLs for these squads are, but trying to make that call is one of the worst predicaments you can find yourself in as an in-game leader. You make the call right, you win the team, and you're the hero. If not, you're the villain, and you never get trusted by your team, and people never listen to you again. But
yeah,
for the side of Gang,
I was just gonna say, like, the interesting thing with Gang Gang is, like, they're essentially putting this pressure on people. It's not just about, like, picking kills for free. Because they're playing Watson and the way we saw them play Watson in game 1, like, their desire is to force you to come play with them because you want kills. And when you come into their area, they've got defensive heroes, so they'll have the advantage. It's pretty crafty the way they've been playing this so far.
I know, look, sometimes it's just knowing what you've got to work with and knowing what suits your play style the best, and it works. It's worked for them in the first 2 games so far, so if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? That's the saying that we love to live by, and, well, for UTFT, they want to try and break the hearts of at least another team or 2. They're going to try and force the engagement. It's going to be one of the players, obviously, rocking the horizon to lift himself on up into that engagement. Preds of the West, though. It's going to be Joe Bear, Kieran, and Blade. They're the ones that are going to be engaged. A few tags do go up, rocking that Jibby. The bubble does go down, but that's going to be a big knock.
Kieran Newsy has to get out of there. Joe Bear left all on his lonesome. It looks like they're going to abandon ship, so Blade is down. That means they're without their Gibby, the most defensive hero, but they're not done here. UTFT, they find the second on the Joe Bear. Just 1 member left alive of Preds of the West, and honestly, I gotta say, Preds of the West, they've never had it easy. Every time looking more like prey than predators themselves.
Yes, the hunter becomes the hunted, if I'm correct in saying. That's what we say, but Kieran, yeah, that's unfortunate.
Did he just try to camouflage himself in the rocks there? I kind of respect it, but not gonna lie, out of all the battle royales in existence, John, I think this might be the hardest one to try and hide amongst the rocks in.
I would say that statement is probably quite highly accurate, to say the least. But 4 squads left, 12 players in total. All players that are available in the lobby are up and running. UTFT, though, this is sort of what we saw from them back last week, right? A slow start in game number 1, but then just lit up towards the later stages of the game and just absolutely ran through the lobby. And it's like they've kind of said to themselves, okay, we've let you reduce that lead from 40 to about 20 points, but now we're going to put it back up to 40.
Yeah, I'd say, like, this is very different to the first week. Like, first week, you know, it's kind of like, why are you guys sleeping? Wakey, wakey. And then they'd, like, get to it. But, like, even in game 1, it wasn't they were sleeping. They had God Spot. They got a decent amount of kills. Honestly, I think the teams just looked back, and the biggest takeaway is UTFT's rotations, and they've done a great job of adjusting their own to avoid this issue. And that's why we saw the switch up from UTFT. You know, they were initially a little bit slow to move across towards Siphon, but because things slowed down due to another team causing that weird third-party dome in that area, it allowed them to catch up, and now they're contesting.
Well, Tax is being contested himself, though. Is going to lose all the shield, a little bit of health knocked down as well, so just still something to work with, or to think about rather, should I say. And again,
it's like every time you go up this roof, you're just feeding shields, right? Like there's 3 different teams looking at you right now. The UTFT need to do something to kind of drag a bit of attention away from them, turn this into a 1v1 and a 1v1, because right now this is a 3v1.
I mean, just trying to take a little look as to where the rest of these squads are set up as to...
It's bridge, and then there's one on low side, and then you've got one in the surveyor camp next to Geyser still. And that should be Gang Gang.
This is sort of reminding me of that... Is that game number 1 setup that we had, right? Where we had one team on high ground, we had one team through the dead center zone, and it was Chet's, the game that they won, who was working on the outskirts, playing with the natural terrain. It looks like that's what UTFT are electing to do at the moment, and it seems to be working pretty damn well for them.
UTFT are actually just playing like the most aggressive spot possible, and it almost worked out there. Genji almost killed 2 members of the team on the bridge. Unable to follow through though. Drone is going to be a nuisance for them. Give full info over. It looks like they're just playing wide to distract. So Nez essentially wants to keep the enemies at bay who are coming in. But I love the drone usage to just get the full info. So now if this team on the low ground wants to push, UTFT are fully unguarded. And that's why you'll see now there'll be a shift where Tax has to move closer to Nez to react to a potential push.
Well, is there going to be the right reaction, though? That's the question on a few of these players' minds.
You have to, right? Like, if you play too wide here after you just got scanned like that, you're begging to be pushed. And, you know, Dream Chasers aren't exactly a pushover themselves. We've seen they can do some great fights. So, show the respect due, right? It's the final 4 teams. You've got to assume it's probably 4 of the best teams, at least, you know, the top 6 contenders. And UTFT, you know, they've been pipped to the post too often here through their own greed and their own aggression.
Well, for UTFT, they're still going to continue to play that aggressive style of play, and it's going to result in them in breaking and cracking his shield on a few. But speaking of breaking, Breaker breaks the heart of Sunny Bloom. That's going to be the first knock. But again, this side of UTFT, they've elected to allow one player to not split off. I don't want to say split off, but for a second I thought Tax was going to play that solo role like we saw one of the players do in that game number 1, which ultimately cost them. But I like the fact that they're sticking together a little bit more here. I think this zone is definitely set up for a 3v3 engagement and being closer to your team than a good old split. But I think it's going to come down to what team blinks first here and makes the mistake, right?
Yeah, and they now know they've got a great opportunity at Bridge. They saw one member got eliminated. Dream Chase, in the meantime, have been taken out on the low ground, so UTFT need to worry about the 2 remaining teams, focusing far upon them. You've still got opponents across the valley on the high ground and another controlling Bridge. Your position is fairly open and exposed, and if you ever have to climb over that wall in a freeway, you know you're going to get burned.
But sometimes if you fight fire with fire, you do get burnt, and exactly look like what could potentially happen. But for Chet's Esports, they could go back to back here, and this would be fantastic for them. I'm not too sure what the kill department has looked like. I think I've seen Nick and maybe Coach pop up in the kill feed one or too many times, but
it's been barely, right? It's been a mild tickling here or there. They haven't been going on a blitzer like last time. And Gang, they just forfeited the high ground ahead of time. They wanted to be on low when they had to move, and now they're going to go for the skyward dive. Everyone will be eyeballing them up and probably shooting to the sky.
Yeah, that's the worst thing about redeploy.
Break
so late
no!
into the game. They all fall. I don't think they broke off in time. It's gonna be Kiffer and Combo. That's heartbreaking. They're still stuck on the low ground. They're just gonna probably bow out here in 3rd spot, and that is a nightmare situation for that squad. Somehow Kiffer and Combo, they keep themselves alive and kicking here. Breaker, he's back up and running. Wow. That is a tough spot. They do find a few tags though. I think this is onto the side of UTFT. One player up close and personal, but that gold shield so hard to crack through. Does eventually though. Kiffer, little bit of red Evo to work with. Breaker could go huge.
Trying to right now. The healing drone, they can heal it going off. The ring's pushing in. Nice low ground fence here. Pins them in with the stuns. Kiffer follows through. Genji hits the deck. Next one on the chopper block's going to move in. The lifeline needs to get rid of it before the heals can come out, but no! Counter-attack. Re-45 reset allows Tax to go for the heal. Needs the shield to cover him though. Pressure coming in. They need one tap. Can they find it? It looks like he's going to hold for a moment, but be eliminated anyway. UTFT get taken out by Chet, and now Chet's primed to take a second round.
Jets go absolutely huge. They smell the blood. They go in for the kill. And the hunters, like we said, could they become the hunted? They become the prey, to say the least. These players now caught on the low ground. Of course, that redeploy didn't work earlier on for Breaker and the squad. So I'm not too sure how long they've got until they can try and get that back up and running. But either way, they're just going to get themselves shot straight out of the air if they do. Lots of utility raining down now off the top of the cliffside. And for the side of Chet's Esports, they're looking to go 2 for 2, and surely here, KP, they're in absolute prime spot to do so.
John, it's just stand and wait. They have ring. They won't die first. They don't even need to go for it, but they want to make a party anyway. They say that's extra kill to be had, boys. Hop-a-doodle-oo, let's go get him. Chet's locking
it once. It was so nice they had to do it twice, right? I think that's the saying anyway, but we're back here for the breakdown from round number 3, and what a round number 3 it was, KP. Chet's Esports, they go 2 for 3.
Looking beautiful for it. And, you know, maybe it's not too much to do just 2 times. Maybe they aim for 3. Maybe they could try to match what UTFT done last week. UTFT that, of course, did make the final ring the top 3 this time around. But my God, this final ring was so messy. But the first thing that was messy was over here in Siphon. Siphon was an absolute bloodbath, and in fact, this was one of the big reasons UTFT really even got to participate in a single fight. Things got locked down this area so long. Teams have been so frequently rotating ahead of UTFT to stay out of the mud zone that they weren't getting kills. But because this fight was 2, 3, 4 different teams going down the same area, they finally catch up, and I wanted to talk about this. Gang. This rotation, gluttony to maximum. Notice that the Valkyrie had the blue shield, 2 teammates had purple. No one passed over. Maybe if they'd done that, they at least get the flip on the Skyward Dive so the other 2 members are flying. But at the end of the day, I've really got to give credit over their teammate. Their Watson saved so much that. Kiffer done a phenomenal job. Landed on the high ground, hopped on top, dropped a perimeter defense that completely screwed over their opponents and made it look like they could actually clutch up. And in the end, Gang, they do a phenomenal job here. Sure, they only come 3rd in terms of overall points for that, but they end up getting a 2nd place finish. Chets, of course, come 1st, but get 2nd overall, and you see what I'm talking about when things slow down and UTFT catches up. They turn into the beast we know them as. 17 points on the board, most of it courtesy of that 10-kill game.
And you know what the funny thing is, KP, is we sort of criticized UTFT for taking so long to turn up to the party, right? We mentioned, I think it was that engagement over towards Siphon, you said, right?
Yes,
where there was literally 9 players, 3 teams, 3 trios fighting around each other, and they only turned up when there was the duo left. So imagine you could have probably added another 6, if not 7 kills on top of that KP as well. So ridiculous stuff, to say the least, from UTFT to catch their way up. But let's take a look at the overall standings for today's games in particular. Chet, they're still narrowly, though, 5 points ahead of Gang, sitting at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, I mean, but look at it. It's like, it's improvement, right? Like, sure, 23 is better than 16, but like the overall feeling is of one of improvement. 8, that's kind of okay. And now they're consistently getting double-digit performances. Same with Gang, you know, 7, but like they start to recover again. Honestly, I love the fact that Gang and Chets especially are starting to pop off. It's surprising how much teams like Murky and Mythic, as well as Franco-British Union, are struggling. But cool also to see UTFT not just looking like a one-pump chump and turning up a 2nd week and now starting to net some valuable points. I think we are going to see that continued adjustment. If you remember, I said at the beginning of Game 3, you know, this is the point where you show that you now know people's new rotations. And it's very unlikely the other teams are going to practice additional rotations to counter that in the same day. So we might see another big performance by UTFT.
Yeah, will we see another big performance by UTFT? That is the question, and the answer's on the tip of everyone's tongues. We are going to be heading into round number 4 relatively soon. But before we do that, we're going to take one last little break. So get yourself the popcorn, get the snacks, get the beverages on full flow, because the final game of the day here at the ESL Prem for Apex Legends is going to be coming to you in just a few moments' time. We got one game left here for the ESL Premiership, powered by Logitech, for you here in Playday number 3. And it has been an absolute fantastic weeks of action so far, KP. It's been a bit of a mixed bag of emotions. We've had it all so far for the first 3 games.
It is, man. You know, like, it kind of feels appropriate that it's powered by Intel when the gameplay is so fast, right? Hey, there you go. There's a sponsor feel. It is that quick, though. Like, it's non-stop. And even when UTFT catches up, we see what we're talking about. And I think this is the brilliant thing. Like, I always love it when you get in these final games of the day, especially when there's multiple teams close to the top, right? It's like, okay, who's adjusted, right? Because it's always easy to say this team had a great game 1 or great game 2. Game 3 and 4 is a whole different ball game, because instead of it just being you throwing out your game plan and seeing how it works, it's now you having to adjust and piece together the rest of what the teams are going to strategize and change across the day. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, we're going to have to wait and see what teams might change their strategy going into game number 4. I do apologise. We are definitely not powered by Logitech. We're powered by
we're
Intel.
powered by Intel. The power of Intel. Look at him right
here. This is what happens when you have cast.
You know what it is. You know what? You probably had you probably had a virtual keyboard up on your screen, and the Logitech mouses are so good that they clicked everything.
Yes.
And you know what?
I definitely just didn't look at the wrong part of the brief that we got sent.
And you know what the final part is, John? Every single click across your screen would have been so smooth because you would have been on an 144 hertz plus Aegon by AOC monitor. Anyway, let's hop into the game. Let's see if anyone has bothered to change the rotations at all, or if we are just going to be the same old normies. August already opening up with the same drop as usual, while Preds of West, they're hunting. They've found something on drop this time. They finally noticed the team that keeps dropping into Lava City cannot be allowed to do that for free.
Yeah, well, I mean, the worst thing about those drops, especially we speak about. I think it was what player was it from? Was it Breaker that we saw in that Valkyrie deploy as well, trying to rotate their way up on the sort of top of the cliffside, just get instantly shot out. So
yeah, the difference there, right, is like when you use balloon, it's just you need to get the top and you fly off, and you can get shot out of the air, but it's very hard to shoot people once they move. What makes Valkyrie rotation so difficult now is like it's been hard nerfed. Not only did they decrease the apex of your lift by 20%. But they also made it so you can no longer spin to win when you fly up. So you're very easy to shoot. And it means like they always get to target Valks. They always targeted Valks before, you know. And it's why like I'm kind of surprised we're seeing as much Valk as we are. I honestly think if we were playing any other map, the Valk pick rate would probably be lower. But it's just a comfort pick for people, you know. I call it the get out of jail free card ultimate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just become so used to being meta across the board on Apex that, like you mentioned, it's just such a good comfort pick to have. But well, one thing that's not going to be comforting for the side of Preds of West is the fact that they've lost Blade early doors, and it's going to be Jord who finds the first pick of the game.
Yeah, it's happening again. The same way as before, I believe. I don't know if it's Kira Played going down first, whatever, they switch it around, but it's Jord just dominating the entire team. Kira at least gets a conversion onto Alec, needs to burst that kill as quick as possible before reinforcements arrive. In fact, this feels like someone who just wants to die. Instead of healing, he just goes for the first. And barely gets away, but I'm surprised that they didn't clip him. Follow-up will be for there finally, and it ends up being Atom to clean up the final member. So they do have to respawn Arik, but Handmade Burgers, once again, getting some of those early points they're known for on the board.
Yeah, they've been a team, especially this week as well, who have been quite ruthless at the start of the game. They spot one team, and I feel like they end up tunnel visioning a little bit, but we've seen it cost them their life on a few occasions, right? That tunnel vision, it makes them very, very vulnerable to that third party. And August, we know you're playing with 2 players, but can you please stay alive past the first phase and round for one game at least? That's all we're asking. And the worst thing about that is you've got the side of Franco Blitz, who seem to want to try and focus and find this duo.
Honestly, August, just rename himself to Harmless. Maybe people just let you exist in that situation. I mean, Franco Brit's probably not the team that's going to let you exist. Remember, these guys really need to net some more points. Haven't had the one, at least, pop-off performance they're known to turn up each week and have. So, definitely thirsty for some of those more free kills, shall we say. And there's no denying, you know, no matter how good or bad you are, if you're a 2-man squad, you probably are on the easy end of the kills.
Well, I would say kills have not been too hard to actually come by for most teams so far today. I think it's probably just August, and I think there's maybe one other team, you know, the
There was one or two that were struggling a bit, right? I think.
Other than that,
like,
it's been quite even across the board, though.
yeah, I think Preds of the West have been getting roughed up as we've seen on landing. Like, I think they've actually frequently died to one of two different teams very early on. So Preds of the West, probably at the end of the day, won't have too many points on the board. Really impressed by Dream Chasers' turnabout. Like, they were the third worst performing team at the end of day number 2. But now we've seen them win one. We've seen them come deep in multiple rings. They're looking phenomenal right now. Actually, I don't think they won one, but they came close to, right? Like, multiple times. It's impressive. Wait, they did. No, they did win one. It's too long a day.
I think it's Apex Legends. Even though the games
It's
fly
like
by,
we've
sometimes
had-
it makes you delirious.
So we had, was it Gang, Chet?
Gang and Chets twice.
Yes. Yeah, and Dream Chasers came close multiple times, I think.
Dream Chasers, I think they came second in Chets' first win. If I'm
Yes.
correct. It was
Yeah.
that triple
correct.
split, right, where it looked like it was going to be murky. He picked up the
You're
win,
correct,
and then
yes,
it was,
yes, yeah.
It was Gang, Chets, and then
But the point holds, right? Like, they're doing so well. They're catching up from the bottom of the leaderboard. And just as I'm bigging them up like this, one of their members is on the ground pretending to be a doormat. So, perfect. Just the typical experience. And it looks like more might be following suit. Trivia FBS is trying to hold on his own. Gang, in the meantime, have already been eliminated. Get taken out by UTFT. Focus on this fight. It's the Gibby team. Berkey fighting deep here. Jay almost going down. Kinder close to hitting the deck as well. They need a reset and an opportunity to heal, but they already threw out the dome. It's not going to be easy to escape. Sonar detection is going to be thrown out from Bloodhound, and they are going to be cut off on the retreat. They need to fight tooth and nail to get out of this because they're pinched on both sides. Jay tries to stand his ground, second hit the deck. It's all on Kinder now, and they're not letting up. They'll push together. They'll look to wipe out the final member, and there will be no grounds given to Murky.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was just that early pop of the Jimmy bubble, right? Like, as soon as you invest that so early on, and it's just so hard to work with any sort of way. And Miloshki, that's going to be the finisher that comes through from Marsh.
It's very pretty.
Yeah, it's a very pretty finisher, but it's always the worst situation to find yourself in on the player and the receiving end of it, because you've just been embarrassed, basically, on stream.
At least you have some free to look at when you die. Like, it's much worse when Gibbies decide to sit on you, right? Like that. Imagine that's the final thing you see. You know, it's not the way I want to go out.
I mean, some people might enjoy that. That might be some people's ideal way of going out in the world, all right? But let's not say there's anything wrong with that in the world, right? Some people, whatever floats your boat, right? That's what we're gonna say. But
I mean, if it kills you. Mythic though, I love the turnabout. Franco Brits, like, they felt confident after the first fight. They should not have felt confident about this one though. Widge from the high ground, taking down Clone. And it looks like his teammates have already cut and run. He says, "Help me, team." He goes, "Well, your problems are not mine." Franco Brits will stay alive, but not as a full.
Yes, Mythic. They're a team that I feel like they've been on the fringe a little bit so far today. Again, it was game number 2, right? That they were last alive, or one of the games we saw them inside the top 5, but they just can't seem to get over the stumbling block at the moment, and it's been costing them dearly on the leaderboards.
I mean, I gotta give credit to Trivia FBS, by the way. Like, he got the reset for his team there. And he snuck it in a way they might even run off into the night here. Trivia is definitely creating the space. The problem he has is if he's last one out, like, he's a crypto. Don't know if you know this, cryptos aren't too good at running away, you know? Like, I'm very good with computers too, and I can tell you, I'm terrible when it comes to athletics.
I'm in the same boat, my friend. We'll just
I
agree.
get out of breath watching other people run, right? Like, I watch people play Warzone or Apex for now, I'm like, whew, that was a good workout.
Yeah, my thoughts as a caster casting this exact day's worth of Apex Legends in a nutshell, my friend. Let me tell you that right now. But, well, speaking of this day's gameplay, it's been great so far. We've only got 7 squads left alive in this final lobby of Playdate number 3. Of course, we're only in the group stage here. We've got lots more Apex Legends action coming up over the due course, and you guys don't want to miss it. We're definitely going to be keeping these lobbies coming at you fast and furiously throughout the group stages, and then going into the final stages of the competition as well. But, you know, in the grand scheme of things here, you're looking at this at the end of the day, I would say UTF's lead's still going to be, probably around that 30-point region. When is it? What stage of this group stage do you say to yourself, okay, we're probably not going to play for top spot in the group stage. We might have qualified through to the next stage of things. When is it you start to trial out new things and see what works against these teams going into the later stages of the competition?
Honestly, I think, like, depending on the seeding system, right, like, teams are more or less going to keep going. Like, some people are just playing for fun, so there's that kind of element. There will be a few teams that kind of, like, realize that playing, like, what they've been playing with isn't going to be, like, a top-tier finisher. So maybe we will by week 3, day number 2, so day 6 overall, maybe we'll see some teams start to experiment with the idea of like bringing Catalyst, the newest legend. I think she offers a lot of reset potential with her ultimate, which of course is the Veil. It essentially like locks out teams. If they want to walk through the wall, they're going to be heavily slowed and blinded. Right, so it gives you a reset that not many legends now offer. Right, it used to be things like Gibby were incredible, but honestly, if you saw a lot of Gibby in this tournament, all it would have meant is a lot of crypto. Like, a lot of the best resetters in the game right now have hard counters.
Yeah, well, I think that's why that new legend has been so... such a fan favorite, you could say, right? A lot of people have started to steer towards them and have enjoyed having them in legend comps, and we're going to see that consistently more as Apex Legends goes on. But we are going to lose one more squad, 6 squads left. But can you pinch me here, KP? Can you make sure that you check the date and time? Are Auglis still alive inside the top 6 at the moment? Is that correct? Am I seeing it? Can we check with production that this is right? Are we watching the right game at the moment?
But wait, we know they're Auglis. Can we check the other player and confirm that they are still killless? That's what matters to me, okay? I want to know if they've managed to keep their 1 kill a day average on kind of... like, honestly, it's rough to kind of talk them like this, but I think they're having fun with it. They know, like, coming in this and being a 2-man squad is not exactly what you call ideal in a game that's built around trios. But I mean, dude, someone's got to be a rat, right? I think we literally won the teams here. Actually, I think it's Preds of the West, who don't play like rats at all. Their logo actually is a rat, so maybe Auglis should take that.
Listen, sometimes if you're a dynamic duo, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Dynamic duo. What's the dynamic part there? Running away?
Yeah, when I said dynamic, I mean in terms of the actual maneuvers across the map. They leave. They leave the lobby quite early on most occasions.
They came in like a wrecking ball. They came in hard. It's Cat Jam getting eliminated in this house. You want to see switch-ups. You talked about trying experimenting. UTFT is doing that. Notice a difference in their comp again. They rotate the Valk back in. But this time, Nez is bringing out the hard aggression. We finally get to see some Maggie.
Listen, Maggie is absolutely mental at times, right? That's what you got to know, and they go mental with it. UTFT, to say the least. That's going to be, I think one of them was the kill leader as well, with five kills on the board. So they're looking at around again, another high elimination game. 5 squads left, 14 in total. Obviously, one of them are going to be the duo. So for Mythic, I think now it's going to be UTFT who turn their attention over towards them. And when UTFT is shooting as well as they are, it's a tough task to follow.
Yeah, Mythic have been getting roughed up hard, right? Like, remember, they've only made 8 points total so far, most of it coming from positioning, so not really a fight they want to take. I think they're starting to realize who they're up against in this area, so instead of trying to contest it, they are just going to back out. They will bow down to the superior force of UTFT, who are, of course, on that high ground.
I love the fact that UTFT just still hold W. I feel like at times
they've got Maggie now. You've got it, right?
you can't not, right? That's just when you think UTFT couldn't get any more scary with their WKS style of play. They throw a Maggie into it, and it's just like, okay, cool. They just got a little bit more scarier, but
let's not oversimplify what they're doing here, John. All right, every once in a while they add in an A or a D, and they rotate between using shift and not, like, you know. But
yeah, true. They got to duck and dive their way out of a charge rifle every now and then back in the last lobby, but still seems to be working pretty damn well for them. But one thing that's been working pretty damn well is Chet's gameplay today. They've been so consistently well. The shield is broken onto one of the players. That's going to be the Horizon who's on 4. Oh,
they got Robin Hooded. Vash takes him out.
Dear Vash, what a shot.
Yeah, but they've got the exhibit, which means you can't hard press. Black Hole is really going to stop them from pushing as well. Like, if anything, they just gave Chets the full reset. And they're going to back out, but they might be being backstabbed here by UTFT. UTFT on the rotation through, only coach on the high ground. Chets need to run.
They're scampering their way out of trouble. They have got the redeploy from the Valk to work with should they need it, but they might not even have a chance to get into a spot to do just that, because that player's going to fall eventually. It's going to be Coach who drops tax-free indeed. What a nade, though. Like you said, Arcstar does come through. A little bit of damage is going to be dealt. Genji is relatively low.
Relatively, you know, it's just it's a mild flesh wound. You only lost both your legs and your arms here. Genji, I mean, honestly, if someone coughed on him, they'd be dead right now, but they stay alive. Tax is being aggressive, needs to be careful. Remember, that's the lifeline. That's your quick reset hero if another member goes down. And brilliant breach charge coming through with the drill, doing so much damage and 2 knock. Chets do get eliminated. UTFT now looking like the big late upsetters here. Chets were on top of 47 points and the BM out. UTFT say, no, no, no. No, you've been having your fun, but the Kings are back.
It's just honestly so mesmerizing to see a team like UTFT being able to turn on the afterburners and turn on the style at any chance, like any time they want throughout a lobby or a play day, to just say, okay, we're giving you the first 2-3 games of the day. Let's just turn up for the final game or so, and we'll still take top spot quite comfortably. And that's exactly what they're doing. But Dream Chasers chasing the dreams. Indeed, it's going to be Widge who does fall. Shield is going to be cracked. Does that player eventually fall? Just gets out of trouble, I think. Surviving with a scamper of health. Miloshki, though, Sunny, and Trivia, they are going to continue to be engaged. They're going to try and find the kill. They do. It's going to be Vash who falls. And for UTFT, they now want to push in for the third party.
Underkiller already taking out Miloshki. Looking for more here. Sprays are decent. Tax needs to reset, though. Being healed up by the pylon ultimate right next to them to say thank you very much for that. As they push forward, though, it is a 2-on-3. There's no denying that. They even start to jump through the perimeter. Security is a little bit risky as they're feeling frisky. Hard spray coming in. They will be able to crack one, and they will open up the follow-through. Now Tax the rotation to get the finishing kill, the finishing touch. Dream Chasers are taken out, and UTFT are on a burner.
It's August, they're the duo that's last alive, I think, if I'm correct. I think it's August who are last, they are! They're gonna do it! Let's go, August, let's go! I think we get a chance going in the chat for sure, but it should be a matter of time before UTFT clean up this. Genji's gonna find the first, but listen, we flamed them, but finally, in the final game of the day, August, they take home a second spot. Now, can they continue the 1 kill a day average? That's all I care about.
I'm just checking and looking, seeing UTFT all red shields, and I'm shaking my head at that idea. I don't think they're getting another kill on the board. It's just a game of hide and seek, but you know, this one feels biased. You know, when you play those type of games, it's usually 4 innocents, 1 evil person. Instead, it's 3 evil people chasing the 1. UTFT will take the final game of day number 3, and what a way to do this with probably the highest kill score we have seen today.
Yep, that's what happens when you combine ruthless aggression on the likes of a Maggie with shooters that can shoot like UTFT do. And yeah, well, what a performance from them, to say the least. Fantastic stuff. They finally turn up. When we was asking them the questions really throughout the most of it today, like what's happened with them? If they took their foot off the gas a little bit, complacency may or may not have that started to set in. But, well, it's safe to say UTFT, they are here to stay at the top of the leaderboards, to say the least. And I'm excited now to see towards the later stages of this competition how well they can perform when push comes to shove. But we are going to take a little break, but when we come back, we're going to have all that round 4 wrap up and close out the show. UTFT, more like you're too not good enough for us. I tried to make it work, it didn't work, but KP, it's safe to say the least, UTFT, boy oh boy, can they show up when they want to.
Yeah, I think UTFT, it fits actually with August at the end. It stands for U2 Frag 2. Right, so because
Yes.
they're fragging everyone, to be honest, throughout this. I love the Maggie switch up. UTFT, you see it here as we get the first glimpse of them in this game using it, just ambushing cat jab, and then the BMs come through. They catch Chet waiting for a train that's never coming, my love, and they clean them up. The BM shootings as well to multiple teams. There was a good reason behind this, by the way. Post game 3 in the Twitch chat, there was a little bit of smack going back and forth. Something about egos being fragile, and you know what, Genji? Stood tall and said the only thing that's going to be fragile is your limp, dead bodies. They crushed everyone, mind, body, and soul, and I would not be surprised if they are at the tippity top. 27 points to round out the day in the final game. This will no doubt put them at the top spot over on the leaderboards. They entered this game with 31 points. For comparison, Chet Esports, the top team, had 47, and they barely got a chance to touch anyone. Only 4 points from placement.
I would just like to take time to say that UTFT in that game killed half the lobby.
Yeah.
They had the same amount of kills as the rest of the teams combined. And when you're doing that, it's safe to say you're very much going to guarantee yourself at the top spot of the day's standings, or at least the round standings, should I say. But no, they're there at the top of today's standings as well, KP. No real surprise, really, right? I mean, it was only round 2 that they looked a little bit dicey with picking up 2 points.
Yeah, and I'm happy for him finding the groove again. I'm also not happy for him, UTFT. Can you not just get dunked on for a day and just take it in good stride and just suck? Because here's the problem. When a team does decide to keep popping off like this and the other teams don't quite follow the same suit, it means that we are once again just creating a tournament that is essentially who gets to be the first place loser. Because due to the results of today, UTFT have now extended their lead in first place. Second place, which is Murky, with 110 points. UTFT are now 77 points ahead of them with 187 points. 86 kills in total, 5 wins. By the way, kills alone, they're almost 30 ahead of any other team. That's insane.
It's going to be some pretty insane Apex Legends gameplay from these squads to try and come anywhere near them. There's going to be some pretty catastrophically bad Apex Legends gameplay from UTFT to see them come off that top spot.
Can we maybe we put handicaps in to make it fun, right? Like, oh, you're a mouse and keyboard player, here's a controller. Oh, you're a control player, here's a mouse and keyboard. Or maybe it has to be even harder. Like, we give them one of those kind of old school consoles. I remember a few years back I watched an Overwatch player play Overwatch with bananas. Can we maybe force that?
I don't know how well Apex Legends would run on a Nintendo 64, but we can try it. It's worth a go, right? It's worth a go, to say the least. But no, look, you got to say UTFT, man. They have just absolutely shone week after week. It was only that 2-point game, like I said, in round number 2, where they looked a little bit like, okay, what's happening here? Could they have a bad week? But any questions that were thrown their way, they had the solutions to the problem that they found himself at, and that's what a good Apex Legends squad does, right? When they get asked questions, they answer, and they answer back with big, bold statements.
They do, and they are looking bold, capable of, with tomorrow's performance, if it's anything like today, I mean, they could end up being double of the second place team in terms of overall points, which is phenomenal to think about. I mean, maybe they just got all their gear from Intel, Aegon, Logitech. They got all the best stuff they possibly can, and that's giving them the edge. I don't know what it is. Maybe they drink something. Maybe they have some cool little ritual. Whatever it is that UTFT is drinking, playing with, or whatever have you, it's working. And I love the adjustments we saw from this team. Someone I mentioned in game 3 where they really started to pop off. They clearly used game 1 and 2 as a learning point to go, okay, where are teams going to dodge us and what are they doing? And from there on out, they look like the UTFT we know.
Yeah, well, UTFT look absolutely fantastic, to say the least. But of course, that's 3 weeks down. Are we going to see them continue going into the next few stages, though, KP? That's the question, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a few teams that could still upset, right? I love the fact that we're seeing Gang and Chet's most notably come to mind starting to perform. Dream Chasers getting some consistency, but definitely think Gang and Chet's the more pop-offy teams we saw today. Murky kind of slipping still. Franco-British Union still getting roughed up really hard. Maybe it's to do with the rotations, the places they're dropping. Maybe that's something they need to look towards for future days. But probably won't have much time to think about it this week, right? Because it's the first of 2 days, so we're going to have more games tomorrow. Make sure you tune in for those. But I think what we'll do now, John, is maybe we'll start to round this out. First of all, we've got to give a big shout out to our sponsors, right? Big shout out to this tournament that is, of course, powered by Intel. We couldn't do that without them. And, of course, I'm sure many of you at home have these Aegon by AOC monitors, which is why you're able to see everything crystal clear, or you would be able to if you had one. And then, of course, don't forget to grab yourself maybe a Logitech headset, maybe a mouse or keyboard, and maybe you'll be gaming like the guys you just watched today.
Yeah, exactly. But thank you so much again for watching the shows. From myself and KP, it's been an absolute delight to join you for the first time, my friend. Hopefully we get to run it back and do it again sometime soon. But like KP said, we've got lots more Apex Legends for the ESL Premiership. So make sure you guys stay tuned, hit the notifications on, follow the socials, because with Apex Legends come carnage, and with Apex Legends comes fun times. We'll see you guys next time.